Chapter 626. In the face of everyone's ridicule, Itianyun didn't bother to pay attention to them. It was normal for them to have such thoughts. A young man in his 20s said that he would send people through the ghost world. Was this a joke? 9 out of 10 people definitely didn't believe him. If one of them believed him, then there was something wrong with his brain. Little brother, listen to big sister. If you want to go to the ghost world, you need to be stronger. Although the passage to the ghost world is a little better than before, it is still very dangerous. Ding Qing said very tactfully, like a caring big sister. The other cultivators who followed Ding Qing didn't think much of it and even felt disgusted. For them, Itianyun's appearance was a waste of time. The most important thing was that their leader had tried to persuade them out of the kindness of his heart. If it were them, they would be too lazy to pay attention. Now, they just sat on the side and didn't bother to come over and say half a word. Itianyun walked over and lifted his foot to kick the raft down, then jumped on it and said, "Come on up, there is no need to build a boat, one is enough." His actions made the others dumbfounded. He left just like that? He was really arrogant. Was he a newborn calf not afraid of a tiger? Ding Qing, this is what happens when you are too kind. This time you met a fool, right? Trying to show off in front of you? I didn't expect you to be so attractive. Lu De said sarcastically. Get lost. Ding Qing scolded him and immediately went to the boat. This place is different from the outside. If there are too few people going, it will be very dangerous. There are a few people who are going with me. If you don't come up, I will leave. I don't have time to waste here. Itianyun looked up with an indifferent expression. Ding Qing, kick this kid down and let him soak in the sticks. Otherwise, he won't know what this place is. Lu De sneered. Little brother, you are not responsible for yourself, and you are not responsible for us. Ding Qing was angry and expressed her dissatisfaction with Itianyun's action. I am the great emperor of heavenly clouds. Is this identity enough to be responsible for you? Itianyun said. After he said that, not only did he not receive any kowtowing, but someone immediately laughed. Ha! If you are the great emperor, then I am the supreme emperor. Lu De was rolling on the ground with laughter. He didn't expect to meet a clown who made them all laugh. Little brother, you can't talk nonsense about this. If the people of Heavenly Cloud's empire know about this, you will be dead. Ding Qing's face changed. Itianyun felt helpless. Why didn't anyone believe him when he announced his name? Since you're the retired emperor, why don't you roll down there and take a swim? Itianyun's gaze turned cold. He extended his hand and slapped forward. Before Lu De could react, he was sent flying by an invisible force and fell into the water. Ah! Lu De screamed and quickly swam over. The poison was constantly invading his body, which was not a fun thing to do. Brat, I'm going to kill you. Kill me. Itianyun stretched out his hand again and pressed Lu De into the water. After a while, Lu De got out of the water. This time, Lu De drank a few mouthfuls of water. His face was already dark, and his heart was full of panic. I was wrong, let me go up, let me go up. At this time, everyone's face changed, and they felt that it was unbelievable. Lu De's cultivation wasn't high, but he was still a core transformation stage cultivator. Now that he was pressed into the water, he couldn't move at all. This meant that the cultivation of the young man in front of them was far higher than Lu De. Are you going or not? Itianyun looked at them and said, If you don't go, I will go alone. Even if his cultivation wasn't weak, he couldn't fly there. The Divine King's rule wasn't that easy to break. Therefore, he could only take the boat there. Seeing that Ding Qing was a good person, he decided to take her with him. Go. Ding Qing quickly turned her head and said to her companions, What are you waiting for? Come down quickly. Oh, okay. They hurried down, and after seeing Itianyun's power, they thought that Itianyun was a madman, but now they felt that this kid was definitely not a madman. Is there anyone else? Itianyun said indifferently. No. Ding Qing found that her tone was a little weak, and she wasn't as strong as before. She vaguely believed that the young man in front of her might really be the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. Then let's go. Itianyun reached out his hand and slapped the surface of the water, and the whole ship turned into a sharp arrow, flying forward at a speed beyond imagination. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared in front of everyone, leaving only the sound of the boat paddling. What kind of speed is this? It's too scary. Is he really the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? It's really possible. I heard that the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor is very young. He looks like he's in his early 20s. Didn't we miss the opportunity to make friends? Damn it, Ding Qing ran into him. The group of people regretted their decision. As for Luda, who swam ashore, he was already poisoned. Whether he could survive or not depended on his own ability. However, no one dared to save him because this was the punishment of the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor. If they saved him, wouldn't they be going against the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Tianyun didn't care about what they thought at all. He just helped Ding Qing and the others along the way. Their speed was dozens of times faster than the first time they came here. They didn't even need to row the boat. They relied entirely on Tianyun's power to swim forward. The darkwater sharks in the water didn't dare to come close at all. Under such a terrifying aura, who would dare to come close? Ding Qing and the others didn't dare to say a word. They just sat on the boat and watched the surrounding environment constantly changing. Soon, they arrived at the shore, and when they were about to get off the boat, Tianyun suddenly said, "Don't move, just stand on the boat." Immediately, he stretched out his hand, and the whole boat bounced up and finally landed on the ground, then continued to move forward. His speed was slightly slower, but he was still charging forward at an incredible speed. This scene shocked them all. The boat can still move on land? Of course, this was not a problem. As long as one's cultivation was strong enough, they could release their spiritual power and lift anything. He was doing this now. He easily lifted the boat and continued to rush forward with them without needing to get off the boat. If someone was watching from the side and found that a boat could still move on land, it would be really exaggerated. Especially when there were 5 people on the boat, it was even more exaggerated. Chapter 627. We're here. A voice exploded in their ears, waking them up from their trance. They looked up blankly and found that there was a tall mountain in front of them. We're already here? They were all stunned. It didn't feel like a long time, but they already arrived. Before coming here, they were prepared to die, but they didn't expect that they would arrive in a blink of an eye, and they didn't feel anything at all. Climb up from here and you can reach the peak. It's not difficult. Tianyun walked down from the ship. There were no cultivators here anymore. Ever since he absorbed the black clouds here, basically all the cultivators who came here could easily climb up, and the difficulty was greatly reduced. Unless they were too weak, they could still climb up. Are you really the great emperor of heavenly clouds? Ding Qing shouted at him. Tianyun nodded and left after saying that. He just thought that Ding Qing was a good person, so he decided to bring her along. He didn't plan to go to the ghost world with them, and even if he went to the ghost world, he wouldn't go with them. With his current situation, going to the ghost world would be a fierce battle, so it was impossible for him to bring others with him. Looking at the back of Tianyun, Ding Qing wanted to say something, but she didn't. She could only watch his back gradually disappear in front of her eyes. Sister Ding, are we dreaming? He is the great emperor of heavenly clouds. I heard that he is very mysterious. I didn't expect to see him here in the heavenly clouds empire. Yes, fortunately, I didn't say anything rude before. Otherwise, I would be thrown into the netherworld river like Luda. It's so domineering. Who would have thought that he is a great emperor at such a young age? It seems that I have to be careful in the future. If I offend the son of a powerhouse, it will be extremely troublesome. They all calmed down and didn't dare to be so impetuous. They were very impetuous before, and some of them even thought highly of themselves. When they thought of Luda being thrown into the water, they couldn't help but tremble. It was a nightmare. Ding Qing nodded but didn't say anything. Such a person was not someone they could come into contact with. Up until now, she still did not know why she received such preferential treatment. Other people don't know, only Tianyun knows. To him, it was quite rare for Ding Qing to have a kind heart in such an evil world. Tianyun retraced his steps, but he did not return to the outermost area. Instead, he returned to the death fog. Right now, the death fog was already shrouded by many other fogs. He turned a blind eye to it and walked in. However, he did not walk out. Instead, he went around to another place and slowly walked up. Originally, there seemed to be no path, but he forcefully carved out a path. Soon after, what appeared in front of him was actually a huge mountain. He didn't take the wrong path. Instead, he climbed up with his bare hands. The demonic beasts on the side squeaked, but they didn't dare to pounce on him. They could sense how terrifying Itianyun was. They all felt a sense of danger, so they didn't pounce on him. Soon Itianyun climbed to the top of the mountain. There was no death fog here. Instead, there was a hut. However, this hut was already dilapidated. Obviously, no one had lived here for a long time, causing it to collapse under the wind and rain. He walked over and gently pushed open the door. The inside was covered with dust. It was unknown how long it had been since anyone lived here. It seems that the guardian has left and didn't choose to guard here. Itianyun frowned. According to the memory given by the Heavenly Rock Suppression Ancient Tablet, this should be where the guardian lived. Now that there was no one here, it meant that the person had left. As for where they went, it was not clear. The reason why the underworld passage had become so dangerous was largely because the guardian was gone, causing many of the divine runes here to not be maintained. As a result, as time passed, it would become so dangerous. If the guardian was still alive, it would mean that he had absolutely failed in his duty. According to the oath, he must always guard this place. He must absolutely not leave it at all and guard this place for generations to come. It seemed inhumane, but other than that, there were no other restrictions. As long as there was no problem here, the heaven-creating divine king would not care where they went. He just had to manage the stability of the passage. Now that the passage was in such a mess, the traces of the transmission array above the nether gate seemed to have faded a little. If this continued, the passage would disappear. If the person died, it would not be considered a dereliction of duty. Itianyun looked around and felt that they were not dead. It was obvious that before they left, this place was still very tidy, and there were no bones. It meant that they did not die of old age, and it seemed that there was more than one person living here. Immediately, he walked around the place to see if there were any clues. Finally, he saw a token on the table, engraved with the word, Heaven Essence. Heaven Essence, could it be the Heaven Essence Empire? Itianyun's eyes showed a little surprise. If this was the case, it was really a coincidence. Although he had obtained their memories, he did not know their names. He only knew where they were. After all, the Heavenly Rock Suppression Ancient Tablet was a weapon, not a person. He only knew the general content, but not the details. Now that he saw the word, Heaven Essence, he immediately felt that it was a little interesting. If there was a connection with the Heaven Essence Empire, it meant that the Guardian was not willing to stay here and went out to create an empire. With their strength, creating an empire was not a problem at all. Creating an empire was not important. The heaven-creating divine king would not interfere. The point was that the passage to the nether gate was about to be destroyed, and he did not come back to maintain it even once. If he often came to repair it, he believed that when the heaven-creating divine king returned, he would not interfere. But now, he built an empire, immersed in power, and neglected his job. One must know that the heaven-creating divine king chose them to become guardians and protect the passage, but now he ran away. He believed that when the heaven-creating divine king returned, he would definitely be furious. Of course, no one knew whether the heaven-creating divine king was dead or alive. This heaven essence must have thought that the heaven-creating divine king would not come back, so he left here. Obviously, he was not like Renda, who was willing to stay in the small village as a guardian, but chose to establish an empire. It seems that I have to go to the Heaven Essence Empire. Chapter 628. Heaven Primordial Empire. Great Emperor, the Heavenly Clouds Empire is too arrogant. They have overshadowed our Heaven Primordial Empire. That's right. Although we have always been called the second place, we are never that easy to bully. Even the World Dragon Empire has to give us some face. What kind of heritage does the Heavenly Clouds Empire have? They only have a powerful great emperor. If the great emperor dies, the Heavenly Clouds Empire will definitely perish. Last time, the great emperor still had to wait outside. He's going too far and is extremely arrogant. In the court, the ministers were indignant. They felt that they were being suppressed by the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Now, the whole mortal world was talking about the Heavenly Clouds Empire being the first place. If we didn't keep a low profile, the World Dragon Empire would have been suppressed by us. Now that the World Dragon Empire is gone, it's the Heavenly Clouds Empire's turn to suppress us. That's true, but the Heavenly Clouds Empire is really strong. He alone can suppress the entire World Dragon Empire. I suggest that we calm down. Bullshit. The Great Emperor was left outside for a few hours. I can't swallow this. But if we provoke the Heavenly Clouds Empire, you coward. Do you think our Heaven Primordial Empire is weak? Do you think the retired Emperor is weak? Our retired Emperor is much stronger than the World Dragon Empire. They quarreled one by one. They were originally arrogant ministers, but now they felt that a nouveau riche was stepping on their heads. All of them wanted to fight back or seek justice. They didn't want to be suppressed by the Heavenly Clouds Empire. It was too shameful for an old empire to lose to a new empire. Great Emperor, there is only one Heavenly Clouds Empire in the entire Heavenly Clouds Empire. If the retired Emperor takes action, he will definitely be able to crush the Heavenly Clouds Empire. At that time, not only will the Heavenly Clouds Empire belong to us, but the entire mortal world will also belong to us. The Imperial Preceptor said with a smirk. We didn't want to deal with the World Dragon Empire before because we were worried that they have a trump card. Now that we have used all our trump cards, if we were not so cautious, the World Dragon Empire would have been suppressed by us. The Heavenly Clouds Empire was definitely not satisfied with being the second place, and they had long wanted to become the top empire in the mortal world. Now that the Heavenly Clouds Empire had taken the lead, how could they not feel indignant and angry? Heaven Primordial Great Emperor's eyes flickered, but he also didn't care much about the Heavenly Clouds Empire. A small empire overthrowing the World Dragon Empire, and yet it thinks it's invincible? Previously, when he was blocked outside, he felt extremely humiliated. If he wasn't worried that Tianyun had someone backing him up, he would have been furious. After careful investigation, it seemed that Tianyun was the only person in the Heavenly Clouds Empire. Apart from that, he didn't have any background. Whether it was the Heaven Realm or the Netherworld, there didn't seem to be any. Moreover, even if there was, could they come over? Silence. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor indicated for everyone to quieten down and said in a deep voice, I already understand everyone's thoughts. Actually, I've already told the retired Emperor about this matter, and he's willing to take action personally. Soon after, he raised his head to look at the sky, stood up and respectfully said, Father, you should be in charge of this place. A moment later, a pillar of light shrouded down from the sky, and an old man appeared on the throne, calmly looking at everyone. His peaceful gaze made him look like a benevolent old man. Greetings, retired Emperor. Many ministers knelt down and bowed respectfully to the retired Emperor. Even the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor knelt down respectfully. Get up, the retired Emperor said in a dignified tone. One by one, they got up and looked at him respectfully. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism. In their opinion, the retired Emperor was the real god. I already know about your matter. I don't know where this kid came from, but his cultivation is indeed not weak. Since he was able to kill that old guy from the World Dragon Empire, it means that he is at least at the peak of the Spirit King stage, or even at the first layer of the Saint King stage. The retired Emperor said indifferently, this level of strength is indeed very important in front of the other empires, and no one dares to provoke him. But in front of me, it's not worth mentioning. The retired Emperor is unparalleled in the world. The retired Emperor is invincible. The ministers were very excited. Many of them had seen the retired Emperor in action, and the power he displayed was still fresh in their memory. I didn't deal with those old guys from the World Dragon Empire because I wanted to break through in seclusion. I didn't expect that old guy to be killed just after I came out of seclusion. The retired emperor sneered and said, "Trash is trash. Cultivating some unorthodox methods will only lead to their own demise. No matter what, the number one empire in the mortal world must belong to me." The retired emperor stood up, and the ministers knelt down again and shouted, "The retired emperor is invincible. The retired emperor is invincible." The retired emperor's eyes were filled with fanaticism. It was a fanaticism for power and a desire for reputation. He liked the feeling of being high and mighty. He liked the feeling of being worshipped by a group of people. "I will personally go to the Heavenly Clouds Empire and pay a visit to this great emperor. I want to see what he is capable of. Even if he is a dragon from the heavenly world or the ghost world, he will still have to bow down to me." The retired emperor sneered and said, "I will let him know that I am the ruler of the mortal world, not anyone else." The retired emperor clenched his fist as if he was already standing at the peak of the mortal world, feeling the worship of everyone in the mortal world. "I want to see how you will make me bow down to you." At this time, a figure slowly walked in from outside the door and looked at the retired emperor indifferently. "Heavenly Cloud's great emperor?" The ministers and the heaven primordial great emperor exclaimed when they saw Yi Tianyun walking in. They didn't expect Yi Tianyun to come in person, which was beyond their expectations. This was their territory, and they didn't know how arrogant a great emperor must be to dare to come here alone. "Yes, it's me," Yi Tianyun said indifferently. "Don't you want to welcome me? But it seems that all of you are very unhappy with me, right?" "Presumptuous," the heaven primordial great emperor said angrily. "You broke into the imperial palace without permission. This is a provocation to the heaven primordial empire." With the retired emperor behind him, he was naturally full of confidence. Chapter 629. Who the hell are you? Heaven primordial retired emperor looked at him in shock, and his killing intent immediately enveloped the entire hall. Many ministers were invaded by this killing intent, and they collapsed to the ground one after another, losing their combat effectiveness. These ministers' cultivation wasn't low, all of them were at least core transformation stage, but in the face of this killing intent, they were paralyzed. Even the void spirit stage powerhouses felt weak in their legs, and they felt like they could be killed in a second. Everyone was confused. Wasn't this Heavenly Cloud's great emperor? Why would he ask who he was? Most of them didn't know the true identity of Heaven primordial retired emperor, and everything was given by the Heaven creating divine king. If it weren't for the martial arts and medicinal pills given by the Heaven creating divine king, how could he break through to the Saint King stage? If it weren't for the rule power given by the Heaven creating divine king, how could he stay here without any pressure? As guardians, of course, they weren't limited by the power here. But now, as time passed, the restrictions were getting weaker and weaker. Before, even peak Spirit King stage cultivators couldn't stay here for long. Now, with his Saint King stage cultivation, he could stay here and even have a breakthrough, provided that he had better martial arts and more spirit herbs. Without resources, it was still difficult to break through. Heaven primordial retired emperor was like this. As a guardian, he didn't do his job well, but instead, he established a sect. Not only did he establish a sect, but he also didn't go back to repair the Ghost World passage. On the other hand, they were planning to become the number one empire and ascend to the position of the strongest empire, throwing all the responsibilities of protection to the back of their minds. If it weren't for the Heaven creating divine king, Heaven primordial retired emperor would still be an ordinary cultivator. However, after the Heaven creating divine king left, he immediately abandoned his position as a guardian. If the Heaven creating divine king came back, he would be furious. In the face of this killing intent, Yi Tianyun still maintained a faint smile as if nothing happened. "Who am I? Is it important? You have forgotten your duty, and the Ghost World passage is about to be destroyed. You, on the other hand, are building an empire here? If the passageway collapses, can you bear the responsibility? You have betrayed the trust of the heaven-creating divine king. Yi Tianyun snorted coldly. After the collapse of the passageway, it meant that there was no more passageway to the netherworld. The mortal realm, which was originally lacking in resources, became more and more crowded as the number of experts increased. In the past, cultivators had been forced to go there, but now they could only stay here. However, with the heavenly realm, it could still be maintained for a while. To a large extent, this was due to the fact that the passageway to the netherworld was not repaired, causing the balance to be greatly reduced. The many godly monarchs did not do so without their own reasons. The heavenly realm and the netherworld were much stronger than the mortal realm, and their places were much more spacious. They were definitely a few times, or even a dozen times more spacious than the mortal realm. I'm asking you who you are and how you know so many things. The retired emperor of the heaven primordial realm walked down step by step and looked at him coldly. All the escape routes had already been blocked. The power of the Saint King Stage second layer was completely released, and the violent combat power was astonishing. Heaven primordial retired emperor, Saint King Stage second layer cultivation, has a divine wood body, has a vast vitality condensed in his body, has a strong healing ability. The martial arts he was good at included the divine woods only, the divine wood art, and the 10,000 woods return to origin. Weakness, fire element attacks. Comprehensive combat power, 2. 8 billion in the state of anger, kill, just anger alone without using any other martial art power, the combat power is as high as 2. 8 billion. No wonder they didn't put the World Dragon Empire in their eyes. The great ancestor of the World Dragon Empire was really a piece of trash. Who am I? Yi Tianyun stretched out his hand, and the power of the heaven-creating divine king emerged in his hand. I am the successor of the heaven-creating divine king, and according to this, you have to call me young master. The successor of the heaven-creating divine king. After hearing Yi Tianyun's words, the retired emperor of the heaven primordial realm didn't show any respect. Instead, he looked up to the sky and laughed. No wonder you are so powerful. It turns out that you are the successor of the Lord. The heaven primordial great emperor, who was behind him, was stunned. He was the son of the retired emperor of the heaven primordial realm. He didn't expect that Yi Tianyun was the successor of the legendary God King. No wonder the heavenly cloud's great emperor was so powerful. No wonder. The heaven primordial great emperor didn't show any respect at all. Instead, there was a hint of greed in his eyes. It means that the Yi Tianyun in front of him is an invincible treasure. If he can capture Yi Tianyun, he can get a lot of precious martial arts, and even a lot of treasures. But so what? The Lord is no longer here. I have waited for a long time, but the Lord still hasn't come back. Do I have to stay in that damn place for the rest of my life? The retired emperor sneered and said, It doesn't make sense. My heart is not there at all. My dream is to become a real emperor and be worshipped by thousands of people. I don't want to stay in that cold place, waiting for death. What you said makes sense, but who can stop you from becoming an emperor? Can't you repair the underworld passage on the way to becoming an emperor? Yi Tianyun shook his head. Don't make excuses for yourself. You didn't mean to do it, you did it on purpose. You want to close the underworld passage and affect the situation in the mortal world. At that time, whether it is the heaven world or the underworld, no one can come. If the underworld passage was closed, then the passage from the underworld would also automatically close. The two places were different, but they were connected. If the underworld passage was closed, then only the heaven world passage was left. At first, it was estimated that it could be maintained, but over time, it would collapse. Because energy seeped out of the passage and poured into the mortal world. If the underworld passage was closed, the balance would be broken, and over time, the heaven world passage would collapse. The divine king created the passage, in addition to letting people from the two worlds come and go, more to guide other forces in. If the passage was closed, no one could come up unless someone broke through to the divine king level and opened the passage. When there was no strong expert coming up, the retired emperor was the strongest existence in the mortal world, dominating everything here. If he went to the underworld or heaven world, he could only be regarded as a mediocre cultivation. Even the imperial preceptor of the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom would not be able to deal with him. In order to achieve his dream of becoming an emperor, he did not hesitate to break all the rules left by the divine king. It was really abominable. So what if I do so? I already said that even if you are a dragon in this territory, you still have to bow down to me. The retired emperor sneered and said, I am the guardian of this place, and you are not. You are the guardian? Inanyun sneered. I feel that if it weren't for you, the demon sealed by the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet would not have been able to break the seal so quickly. 100 years is the longest time. Once the seal is broken, your dream of becoming an emperor is really fragile. At that time, who can you protect? It would be good if you can protect yourself. Chapter 630. The conversation between Yi Tianyun and the retired emperor made everyone confused. What guardian? What heaven-creating divine king? They had never heard of any of these, and they were even more clueless about what kind of demon was behind them. They were not clear about it, but the retired emperor was very clear about it. Impossible. That demon can definitely be suppressed forever. Heaven Primordial retired emperor's tone was full of disbelief. In his opinion, this was impossible. You have never cared much about it, so of course you don't know the situation in this regard. Some time ago, I just went to find the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet, and the seal has been damaged a lot. If I hadn't repaired it, the seal would not have been able to suppress it in less than 50 years. At that time, do you think that you are more powerful than the divine king and can suppress the demon, or do you want to sit and wait for death? If the passage is closed, it will be impossible for you to escape to the heaven realm or the underworld. For so many years, you have been blinded by power, and now you have affected the entire pattern of the seal. This was not Yi Tianyun's nonsense. The reason why the seal became weak was largely due to the weakening of the spiritual power. The passage to the underworld had been constantly transmitting spiritual power, and if it was not repaired for a long time, there would be a chaotic situation. This was the case now, but the heavenly realm spirit river was not affected at all. Under normal circumstances, it was not difficult to go up the heavenly realm spirit river, at least not as dangerous as the passage to the underworld. How could it be? The retired emperor was shocked. In fact, he believed it a little. Even the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet was mentioned, which meant that he had really seen it. Are you still stubborn? I will give you a chance to guard the passage to the underworld again, then I will not pursue this matter. Lianyun said coldly. Although the retired emperor had done something excessive, it was really a bit of a waste to kill him. He was wrong in dereliction of duty, and if he were to guard it again, he could make up for it. What he said before was his dereliction of duty, causing the seal to become shorter, was true. But even if he had been guarding there, it would at most extend for a few decades or 100 years. In the end, he would still break through the seal. The seal was not invincible. The most important thing was that the heavenly rock-suppressing ancient tablet was a dead object, not a living thing. The demons being suppressed were living creatures that could continuously grow stronger and eventually break the seal. Unless the cultivation of this fiendish demon was relatively low, it would be impossible for him to escape in this lifetime. However, it was at the level of a god king. Even with the combined efforts of many god kings, they were barely able to seal it. Under such conditions, it was impossible to suppress it forever. Enough. Heaven Primordial retired emperor quickly calmed down and looked at Yi Tianyun with a ferocious expression. 100 years is enough for me to enjoy. What does it have to do with me when I escape to the heaven realm? If you want me to continue guarding that damned place, I can only say it's impossible. Step by step, he walked down and stared coldly at Yi Tianyun. The successor of the great divine king? I didn't expect you to personally deliver such a great gift to me when I came out of seclusion. I'll give you a choice. Hand over all the inheritance, and I'll let you die a quick death. Yi Tianyun didn't expect that after saying all these things, Heaven Primordial retired emperor not only didn't repent, but also wanted to kill him and force him to hand over all the inheritance. Tianyun didn't know why the heaven-creating divine king chose him as a guardian. It seems that the heaven-creating divine king also made a mistake. It can only be said that people will always change. Heaven primordial retired emperor didn't have the same sense of responsibility as Renda. Although the other ministers didn't know what was going on, they all showed an excited expression when they knew that the retired emperor was going to make a move. This meant that the heavenly cloud's great emperor was dead, and the first empire would be theirs. It seems that you are still stubborn. Then I will replace the heaven-creating divine king to eliminate this evil creature. Tianyun said coldly. Eliminate me? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. Do you think you are strong just because you killed that old guy? So what if you obtain the inheritance of the heaven-creating divine king? You're still too young. Heaven primordial retired emperor sneered and said, I told you, even if you are a dragon, you have to stay in my territory. He gently clenched his fist, and the ground began to shake as if the entire mortal world was trembling. Immediately afterward, all the spiritual power around him was sucked away by him. If one looked closely, they would find that the ground was covered with divine runes, and there was a steady stream of wood attribute power being released from his body. After being released, Heaven primordial retired emperor quickly became younger, and in the blink of an eye, he turned into a handsome man in his 30s. This wasn't a final struggle, but a powerful vitality was released to rejuvenate himself. This was the power of wood attribute, which allowed him to live for a long time. Not only did he have the rare divine wood body, but he also cultivated martial arts that matched with his own attributes. With the two superimposed, his vitality reached a great extension. For example, the limit of the Saint King stage was 4,000 or 5,000 years old, but he could live more than 7,000 or 8,000 years old, or even longer. This was the effect of wood attribute, longevity. This was why he lived longer than Renda's father. Renda's father was already dead, but he was still alive. In an instant, the entire hall was covered with tree vines, and each tree vine exuded a green light, filling the hall with rich vitality. This was amazing power, and it felt like it could rejuvenate a person. Retired Emperor is invincible. Retired Emperor is invincible. One by one, the ministers shouted with fanaticism. This power was full of miracles, and only their retired emperor could display it. It was a kind of miraculous power. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor, you put on airs before and made me wait outside for several hours. I gave you some face, but you still dare to be arrogant in front of me. I will make you wish you were dead. Hand over all your inheritance. The Heaven primordial great emperor's previous elegance had long disappeared, and it was replaced by a fierce expression. Everyone thought that Tianyun was dead. No matter how strong Tianyun was, could he be stronger than the retired emperor? With the blessing of the Great Array, the retired emperor's combat power soared crazily from 2.7 billion to 4.3 billion in an instant. Since Tianyun could kill the World Dragon Empire's old ancestor, it meant that he was not weak, so the retired emperor had to take him seriously. His first move was an absolute killing move, but it was not a fatal move. He did not want the inheritance to go to waste. Bind. Chapter 631. Heavenly Cloud's great emperor is controlled just like that? When the ministers saw Tianyun tied up tightly, they couldn't help but be ecstatic. Some of them had seen the retired emperor use this trick before. Tianyun couldn't break free no matter how hard he tried, and eventually, he was completely tied up with countless roots inserted into his body. Not to mention moving, after the root was implanted into his entire body was under control. He couldn't even commit suicide if he wanted to. In this case, he was completely controlled and became a puppet. At that time, they could do whatever they wanted, and the Heavenly Cloud's great emperor was just their prisoner. Just when they thought that they had captured Tianyun, an extreme flame suddenly emerged from the tree vines. The dark flame seemed to have gone crazy, and it burned crazily along the tree vines. This flame. Heaven primordial retired emperor's face changed, and he quickly cut off the tree vines that bound Tianyun. The fire stopped burning, and it didn't continue to spread. The tree vines connected to him were burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. If he didn't cut them off in time, all the tree vines here would have been completely ignited. Following that, a pitch-black body appeared in front of everyone, like an evil god standing in front of everyone. His pitch-black eyes stared coldly at the retired emperor of Heaven Primordial Dynasty, releasing a terrifying power from his body. The heretic god Set was what made him fearless. With this peerless Set, his combat power soared crazily, reaching as high as 7 billion combat power. Such a powerful combat power was naturally related to his breakthrough in cultivation. Just breaking through one level could increase his combat power by nearly 1 billion. This was the terrifying crazy mode of stacking his basic attributes, coupled with the astonishing performance brought about by the effects of the evil god Set. Even saint rulers paled in comparison. Without such an effect, he really did not dare to challenge someone of a higher cultivation level. After all, he was facing a saint king. However, after putting on the evil god equipment set, he felt like a saint king. Divine wood body, a rare body. I think the heaven-creating divine king took a liking to you because you have a special divine wood body. With the ability of longevity, you can be the strongest guardian to guard the underworld passage. I'm sorry you didn't. Lee Dong-yun roughly knew why the heaven-creating divine king chose him. The divine wood body was the best choice. Who knew that the heaven-creating divine king was not particularly popular, leading to such a result? What kind of treasure is this? Did the heaven-creating divine king give it to you? Heaven Primordial retired emperor was shocked. For the time being, not to mention the domineering degree of these flames, the energy that was constantly being released was enough to make one's heart palpitate. This power was too shocking. It was as if a giant was standing in front of them, and they could only look up to it. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor and the others were all shocked. They thought that they would be killed in one move, but now it seemed that nothing had happened at all. Instead, the sturdy tree vines were burned away. Although fire countered wood, it did not mean that it could burn any type of wood. In particular, the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial retired emperor's tree vines were definitely not something that ordinary flames could burn. In terms of quality, they were comparable to the hardness of sage tools. So, how could ordinary flames burn them? In fact, even weapons below the level of saint artifacts couldn't cut it. Weapons that were below the sacred artifact tier would probably be unable to harm the tree vines even if their own weapons were destroyed. Now, with a flame burning over, it was easily burned to ashes. They had never seen such an amazing flame before. It could probably be called a sacred fire, right? According to its rank, it was indeed a sacred fire, the sacred fire of the phoenix nest. In the phoenix nest, it was regarded as a sacred fire, which was absolutely amazing. So what if it is, so what if it isn't? So far, is this question very important? Lee Dong-yun looked at him coldly. Let me feel the power of a guardian, and I want to see how you can make me lie down. Boom. As soon as his voice fell, he quickly stepped on the ground and turned into a black light. The black stream of light formed a black ribbon in the air, swallowing up the surroundings. Some ministers who didn't have time to escape were actually caught in it. They didn't even have time to scream before they were sucked into this black ribbon. Then, they were completely ignited and burned to ashes in the blink of an eye. This thing that looked like a black ribbon was actually a long flame. Under his rapid dash, it formed a huge vortex, sucking in the surrounding ministers. Those who were a little further away were fine, but those who were a little closer were sucked in and quickly burned to ashes. In the blink of an eye, nearly half of the ministers were completely burned to ashes, turning into a large wave of experience that flowed into the system, but this experience was too little for him. In less than half a breath, he had already raised his hand to grab the head of the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Emperor. His speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. Even the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Emperor couldn't clearly see his rushing figure. Lee Tianyun's current superposition speed was too fast, and with the superposition of special items such as the phoenix wings and various accessories, he instantly exploded at a terrifying speed. Even a holy king would have to admit defeat in the face of his terrifying speed. How could this be? Heaven Primordial retired emperor quickly reached out his hand to block Yi Tianyun's attack. Yi Tianyun didn't care about the palm of the retired emperor as he grabbed the retired emperor's wrist and pressed him to the ground. Boom! Black flames rose to the sky and raged in all directions. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor didn't have time to escape, and he was blown away by the explosion. The black immortal fire burned his body madly, and the severe pain made him scream incessantly. He kept rolling on the ground, but it was useless. He made up his mind and chopped down on his burning thighs and arms. With a poochie sound, an arm and a leg were cut off, but no blood flowed out. Under his power, the wound was sealed, and not a single drop of blood flowed out. The severed limbs were quickly burned to ashes, and there was no residue left. The terrifying power was shocking. A dignified great emperor had become a cripple in an instant, and this was not a direct confrontation, but a mere brush. This showed how terrifying Yi Tianyun's power was, and everyone had greatly underestimated Yi Tianyun's power. When Yi Tianyun fought with the old ancestor of the World Dragon Empire, everyone saw that it was a difficult battle, and the most important thing was that no one could see the battle clearly, so the rumors said that he barely won. Now it seemed that the rumor was simply false. His real power was much stronger than everyone's estimation, and he was able to crush their old ancestor. Our Heaven Primordial Empire is finished. Chapter 632. Screams came from all around the hall. Some of the people who were touched by the flames quickly cut off their own bodies. Some of them burned their own heads and were basically done for. This was just a little bit of flame, but the whole hall was enveloped in flames. No matter how they tried to put it out, it was useless. At most, they could only slow down the burning, but it was too difficult to put it out. This time, many of the ministers died. Those who were able to escape were already heavily injured with broken arms and legs. The retired emperor won't lose, he won't lose. They still believed that the retired emperor wouldn't lose so quickly, and there was still a chance to fight back. In fact, whether there was a chance to fight back or not, the Heaven Primordial Empire's vitality had been greatly damaged, and many ministers had died. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the ministers were gone. How long would it take to hurt their vitality? If they didn't provoke Yi Tianyun, they wouldn't have any problems. Now they regretted it. Who would want to provoke this evildoer? Immediately, a green light soared into the sky, followed by a green light jumping out of the flames. It was the retired emperor. When everyone saw it, they wanted to cheer, but when they saw it clearly, they felt like a pair of big hands were strangling their necks, and they almost suffocated. The retired emperor's body was set on fire, and one of his arms was completely destroyed, turning into a pile of ashes. The rest of his body was not much better, and they were all set on fire, with big holes burning through them. Fortunately, he was able to resist the continued burning of the flames, unlike others who could only choose to amputate. On the other hand, Yi Tianyun was still covered with flames, and the air within 3 meters of him was ignited by the black flames. As long as it was within 3 meters of him, it would be ignited, and the terrible power made people tremble. The retired emperor, whom they respected the most, was crippled? He was suppressed, and he didn't even have a chance to resist. What a powerful flame! My divine wood body is suppressed. The retired emperor's face was ugly. He didn't expect that Yi Tianyun would have such a terrible flame. The flame just happened to suppress his power, and if it was any other attribute, he wouldn't be afraid at all. Only this flame was the most terrible, and it could easily set him on fire. Increasing the damage of an attribute is indeed powerful. Yi Tianyun was very satisfied with the increase in damage. Under the restraint, the damage directly increased by a little more than half, which meant that it almost broke 10 billion. The damage bonus was just that overpowered. Who asked the opponent to be directly countered? Previously, he had wanted to have a good fight, but now there was still any suspense? What divine wood body? In his eyes, it was just a piece of firewood, a firewood that could be ignited with a single spark. What happened to your aura just now? Didn't you want me to sit still? Now, let me sit here, I'll wait. Tianyun walked towards the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era, step by step, and didn't seem to be afraid of his power. Heaven Primordial retired emperor didn't reply. He shook his hand, and a steady stream of life energy flowed out of his body. In the blink of an eye, his severed arm, which had been burned to ashes, was restored. The power to regrow a severed arm was not rare to him. He did not need to borrow any power to regrow a severed arm. This was the power of the divine wood body. His body was like a tree trunk, and he could casually grow other branches and leaves without any pressure. However, it was useless even if it grew out. It could still be ignited. Divine wood art, 10,000 woods returned to origin. The retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era did not sit still and wait for death. His eyes released a bright green light, and he immediately pressed the ground fiercely. A green light surged wildly in the ground. In an instant, countless towering trees emerged from the ground. Each towering tree had incomparably sharp branches, and they all swept towards Tianyun. In an instant, the entire Heaven Primordial Empire shook, and even the entire continent shook. The surrounding spiritual power was constantly drawn over. From the outside, it looked like the power of heaven and earth was forcibly gathered by some kind of force in an instant, and then poured into this hall. What's going on? It's simply a miracle. The people outside the Heaven Primordial Imperial Capital saw a steady stream of light spots coming over. They looked like fireflies in the night, but a little bit of starlight was so bright. Many cultivators felt that the spiritual power around them was quickly sucked out, making them unable to cultivate even if they wanted to. This kind of situation was extremely rare. Unless someone activated an extremely large spirit gathering array, the spiritual power would not be sucked out. Who activated a large spirit gathering array? Are we still allowed to cultivate? They came out of the cultivation room one after another. When they looked up and saw the specks of starlight, they were all shocked. From a distance, it looked like a miracle. Especially when they saw that it was the Imperial Palace in the Heaven Primordial Imperial Capital, no one dared to complain. Only God knew what the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor and the others were doing. They were definitely doing something extraordinary. At the same time, the situation inside the hall looked very astonishing. There were large trees everywhere, and many of them broke through the hall and rushed out. But when these giant trees appeared, the flames began to burn wildly. Extinguish for me. The retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era roared, and the green light in his body was released to the extreme, wanting to extinguish the black flames. However, compared to the flames, he was more concerned about Tianyun, who was penetrated by countless trees, to see what the current situation was. Boom! Immediately, a black dragon rushed out from inside, and wherever it went, it was ruthlessly bitten off. If one looked carefully, they would find that several fire dragons were released by Tianyun, and they were wreaking havoc in all directions. One of the terrifying black dragon even bit from a distance, and directly bit down on the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era. It was too late for the retired emperor to dodge. How could he have thought that Tianyun could still release such a terrifying attack? Boom! Accompanied by a flame shock wave, the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Era was instantly ignited, and he screamed miserably. Even though the green light in his body flickered wildly, constantly healing his body, he could not withstand this terrible burning flame. In the corner, the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor looked at Tianyun and found that Tianyun had become even larger, and there were actually 2 horns on his head. He looked like an evil spirit that had crawled out of the abyss, filling the world with darkness. Father, Imperial Father. The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor cried out in fear. Seeing his Imperial Father shrouded in flames, he didn't know what to say, and his heart was already filled with fear. This was a battle between Saint King Stage Masters, and they could only watch from the sidelines. Even if they were to watch from the sidelines, they would still lose their lives. At this time, they discovered that the gap between them and Saint King Stage Masters was actually so big. Chapter 633. While the flames were burning, Tianyun returned to his normal state of evil spirits. His whole body was covered with black armor. He didn't look as evil spirits, but he still looked majestic. He didn't go up and give the retired emperor a hard punch to end his life. Because it was too easy to deal with him, Yi Tianyun didn't want to kill him in a hurry. He wanted to take it slow. Not only did he neglect his duty, but he also wanted to kill his successor. It was too easy to kill him like this. Huff! After a while, the retired emperor finally suppressed the erosion of the flames, but he was no different from a disabled person. There was not a single part of his body that was unharmed. This time, he was burned more thoroughly than before. His arms and legs were burned. His body kept releasing life force to heal his body, but the speed of recovery was much slower than before. Although he could regrow his broken limbs, his injuries were too serious. The spiritual power needed to recover was extremely high. Under these conditions, it would take a little more time to recover. In the blink of an eye, the retired emperor they worshipped was half burned, and he didn't recover immediately. This made their morale plummet. How is it? Does it feel good? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. Don't be impulsive. I am willing to go back and be a guardian. He quickly reached out his hand to stop Yi Tianyun. He already knew the fear of Yi Tianyun. No matter what move he used, Yi Tianyun could crush him. Do you think you still have a chance? Yi Tianyun shook his head. He didn't want to give him any chance. Things were already decided. It didn't matter if he went back to be a guardian or not. The seal would be broken within 100 years. He originally wanted to let him go, but since he wanted to kill him, he couldn't let him go. Yi Tianyun had always been a vengeful person. He didn't say he was absolutely a good person, but he wouldn't be soft-hearted. As long as they were hostile to him, he would kill them. Even if the world was destroyed because of this, he would fight back. There was no reason, he just wanted to kill. Moreover, if he really killed him, the world would be destroyed because of this, then everything would be destroyed. As long as they provoked him, no matter who they were, they would die. My heaven primordial empire will forever surrender to you, and I can swear to be your slave. He kept shouting, and his body quickly recovered. At the same time, he shouted to the ministers on the side. What are you doing? Hurry up and kneel. The ministers on the side were terrified, and they crawled over in fear. They didn't dare to look at Yi Tianyun, and they didn't dare to retaliate. Their previous arrogance was completely extinguished as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. Now had no other choice but to surrender. We are willing to surrender and serve Heavenly Cloud's great emperor as our great emperor. All the ministers were terrified. They finally knew why the World Dragon Empire was destroyed. In the face of such a terrifying great emperor, who wouldn't dare to surrender? I heaven, I Tianyun, will, I, primordial emperor. Tianyun I and primordial would kill, emperor, who will who would, and who I would. Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly, and the heaven primordial great emperor knelt on the ground. I apologize for my previous words, I shouldn't have said that. The heaven primordial great emperor spoke in a submissive tone. Where did he still look like a great emperor? He had long been scared out of his wits. I apologize for what I said before, I shouldn't have said that. The heaven primordial great emperor said in a low voice. A wise man submits to circumstances. Although it was a little humiliating, it was not shameful to submit to a peerless monarch. Well, I accept your surrender. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. The ministers were overjoyed, and they looked up, only to see a horrible flame coming towards them. They didn't have time to react, and they were already enveloped by the flame. Accompanied by a scream, they quickly disappeared. They were all burned into a piece of charcoal, completely dead. Including the heaven primordial great emperor, they were all burned to death. We all surrendered to you, why are you still so cruel? The heaven primordial retired emperor was furious. At this time, his broken arm had almost recovered. I don't think you are willing to surrender to me, you are just stalling for time, am I right? Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently and said, just like how you don't want to be the guardian of the heaven-creating divine king, you always have the heart of an emperor, how can you be willing to surrender to others? The Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor didn't refute, instead he stepped on the ground. In an instant, countless petals closed from the ground, wrapping around Itaongyun layer after layer. Inside these petals, there was a glittering green liquid, which was a kind of venom. It was as if the venom had been condensed for a lifetime, and it enveloped Itaongyun. Because it was too sudden, Itaongyun was sealed inside it in an instant. Ha! Let's see if you can survive this time. This is the ancient corrosion poison. Even if you are at the Saint King stage, you will still be poisoned after absorbing it. The Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor laughed happily. Although his son was dead, as long as he was alive, it was enough for him. The others had nothing to do with him. As long as he was still alive, he could reproduce any descendants, and he could recruit any ministers of the empire. Moreover, when the time came, he would become the strongest empire, and the other forces could only surrender in front of him. I don't know how powerful it is, but I don't intend to test it. A ghostly voice came from behind, and the Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor turned his head in horror, only to find that Itaongyun was behind him. You. Before he could finish his words, Itaongyun reached out and grabbed his head, directly pressed him to the ground, and with a bang sound, the retired emperor was instantly ignited from head to toe, turning him into a flaming man. Do you have any last wishes? Itaongyun said while releasing the flames crazily. This time, he wanted to kill the retired emperor completely, not let him speak a few more words. I really am willing to surrender this time. I am willing to be your slave for life. When the demons break the seal, I can be the first to fight. The retired emperor kept shouting loudly, begging Itaongyun to let him go. It's too late. When you first refused me, you were already sentenced to death. Itaongyun's voice was emotionless. For a traitor, there was no need to forgive, especially when he refused his proposal. Then you will die together with me. The Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor roared, and reached out to grab Itaongyun's arm, releasing a terrifying force from his body, wanting to die together with him. Chapter 634. Itaongyun easily crushed the retired emperor's head with just one palm. As long as his head is crushed, his soul will be destroyed. No matter how strong he is, he will die. Ding! Successfully killed the retired emperor. Reward, 8 billion EXP, 15,000 crazy point, 10,000 SBS, 5,000 divine rune proficiency. Obtained wood divine art, 10,000 woods return to origin. Divine wood pearl, rare. Divine wood armor, high-grade sacred tool. Divine wood boots, high-grade sacred tool. Detailed divine rune map of the underworld passage. Ding! Successfully killed a guardian. Reward, 300 million EXP, 50,000 crazy point, 10,000 SBS, 1 super enhanced lottery roulette ticket. Ding! Successfully killed a guardian. Rewarded, 300 million EXP, 50,000 crazy point, 10,000 SBS, 1 super enhanced lottery roulette ticket. Mortal World Guardian. Unaffected by pressure, can travel back and forth in the passage at will, and can fly at will. Ding! Congratulations to player Itaongyun for successfully breaking through to 3rd layer Spirit King stage. Ding! Congratulations to player Itaongyun for successfully breaking through to 4th layer Spirit King stage. Itaongyun's EXP exploded. It was mainly because he had used the 80x and 50x EXP cards that he had obtained when he opened the gift pack for level 61, and he had used them before. A Saint King stage powerhouse is very rare. Itaongyun originally wanted to save it for later, but he decided to use it first. Sure enough, the 8 billion EXP was shocking. 146 times the express was crazy enough. It was an incomparably shocking amount of EXP. Even if he killed a minister, he would get a lot of EXP. This allowed him to break through 2 levels in one go. 3 billion experience points was a piece of cake for him with the help of the Wild Experience card. Itaongyun was still not far away from 5th layer Spirit King stage. He only needed 1 billion EXP to successfully break through. This speed of leveling up is so cool. I almost broke through 3 levels. If only I could grit my teeth and be more ruthless, He originally wanted to buy more EXP cards to stack, but it was too expensive now. Tianyun used it too many times, and now it cost hundreds of thousands or even millions of EXP cards. If it weren't for the fact that the 80 times experience card could not be stacked, he would have bought 2 cards and stacked them together. 2 80 times experience cards would be 160 times. After killing the Heaven Primordial Retired Emperor, it was equivalent to killing 160 Retired Emperors and 160 Saint King Stage Masters. How many Saint King Stage experts could he find in this mortal world? Even in the celestial world or the underworld, it was impossible for so many saint rulers to come and kill him, right? Therefore, he stacked an additional 50 times experience card, which was more than enough. If there were more Saint Kings, he would definitely go all out and buy a few more experience cards to stack up. He might even buy a 5 times experience card. It does look dangerous, but it's meaningless to me. Tianyun looked up at the rapidly withering petals. Poison flowed out from the petals and spread in all directions. Under the erosion of this poison, the hard ground was seriously corroded, and in a moment, it was like a poisonous swamp, showing how terrifying this poison was. Even a Saint King Stage Master would find it difficult to cure this poison. Perhaps this is the Heaven Primordial Emperor's strongest move. Tianyun frowned. Although he didn't think it was very dangerous at the time, for safety's sake, he directly teleported to the back of the retired emperor and attacked him. Because if he continued to play, his EXP card would run out, so he immediately teleported to the back of the retired emperor. Immediately, he began to clean up the mess and put away all the storage rings on their bodies, including the retired emperors. After checking, he found 2 divine tools inside. 2 divine tools, the capital is really good, but just 2 divine tools, not even willing to give them to his own son, really stingy. Tianyun shook his head. He didn't find a single divine tool in the storage ring of the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. From this, it could be seen that the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor treated him as his master. At least giving his son martial arts was good enough. The 2 life-saving divine tools were left with him, but they were killed by him before he could use them. In fact, it was meaningless to take them out, because both divine tools were suitable for the retired emperor of the Heaven Primordial Great Emperor. With his divine wood body as the main body, he could exert his full strength. Obviously, it was made by the heaven-creating divine king, but who knew that this guy was ungrateful and abandoned his identity as a guardian for his own selfish desires? In any case, all the treasures here were taken away by him. When he walked out of the hall, many guards outside looked at him blankly. It wasn't that they didn't want to go in, but the continuous release of energy forced them to retreat. Now that the energy had dissipated, the person who walked out of it was an unfamiliar face. Hey, who is he? He is the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor. I saw him before, when I went to the Heavenly Cloud's imperial capital with the Great Emperor. How could it be? How could the Heavenly Cloud's Great Emperor appear here? Could it be that he was the one who fought just now? While they were guessing, Tianyun looked around and immediately said in a deep voice, because the Great Emperor of the Heaven Primordial Empire offended this emperor's dignity, he has been suppressed by this emperor. From today onwards, the Heaven Primordial Empire is under the control of the Heavenly Cloud's Empire, and anyone who resists will be killed without mercy. His voice spread throughout the entire Heaven Primordial Imperial capital, including more than a dozen miles away. What? The Heaven Primordial Great Emperor is dead. While everyone was shocked, they felt a terrifying emperor's might falling from the sky, forcing all the cultivators to kneel on the ground. From the depths of their hearts, an irresistible force gushed out, but most of them still worshipped at the feet of Tianyun. This wasn't because Tianyun used any power, but because he equipped the title of I am the Great Emperor. I am the Great Emperor. After equipping this title, those who are a great realm lower than me will easily choose to surrender. At the same time, commander points will increase by 1,000. This was a very amazing title, but he didn't equip it before. If he equipped it, he could just walk outside and say a few words casually. Now that he was at the Spirit King stage, basically everyone below the Void Spirit stage would choose to surrender. the lower the cultivation, the easier it was for them to surrender. This was the situation now. Those below the void spirit stage all chose to kneel. Only those at the void spirit stage could still resist, but they were still terrified. Chapter 635. What? The heavenly cloud's great emperor attacked the heaven primordial empire, and all the ministers and great emperors were suppressed? Even the retired emperor of the heaven primordial empire was suppressed. Isn't this power too strong? What exactly provoked the heavenly cloud's great emperor? Could it be that the heavenly cloud's great emperor doesn't like the heaven primordial empire, or does he want to dominate the entire mortal world? Hey, it's possible. No matter what, this is too overbearing. The World Dragon Empire was just overthrown, and now it's the turn of the heaven primordial empire. The Netherworld Empire was also overthrown by the heavenly cloud's empire, right? Isn't it too scary that the top 3 empires were overthrown? By the way, the Netherworld Empire isn't qualified to be ranked 3rd, right? It's just that the heavenly cloud's great emperor isn't qualified to be ranked 3rd. The news immediately spread around. Most people didn't know why Yi Tianyun did this, but it could only mean that Yi Tianyun's power was too strong. A single person overthrowing 2 empires shocked the mortal world once again. Many people thought that Yi Tianyun was too ambitious and wanted to conquer the entire mortal world and make all the empires surrender to him forever. This rumor made many empires panic, and they were already waiting for Yi Tianyun's arrival so that they could surrender one by one. In the face of such overbearing power, they had no other choice but to surrender. If they didn't surrender, only death awaited them. The World Dragon Empire and the Heaven Primordial Empire were examples of this. Therefore, all the empires were ready to be taken over by the Heavenly Cloud's empire, but no one came to take them. At this time, they started to doubt themselves. Was it because they were too weak? Compared to this, more people thought that Yi Tianyun was a tyrant, an absolute tyrant. As long as someone provoked him or displeased him, he would immediately suppress them. This time, many of the empires were obedient and didn't dare to resist. At most, they talked about it in private, but they didn't dare to say anything else. After hearing this news, Yi Tianyun was dumbfounded. How did he become a tyrant? If the Heaven Primordial Empire didn't kill him, how could he do this? However, he didn't explain too much. What they said had nothing to do with him. Now that he was in charge of the Heavenly Cloud Empire, everything was peaceful and there were no problems at all. Since the Heaven Primordial Empire had been suppressed, a lot of people had to be sent out to receive them. It wasn't that there were too few of them, but that they needed to send some trustworthy people over. If they sent anyone over, who knew what would happen there? He didn't want to be called a tyrant. If the people he sent were all tyrannical or oppressive, how would he dare to send them? However, there was no need for him to worry about these things. Yi Qingxian and the others would be the ones to worry about it. He only needed to sit here and that would be enough. Let's do a lucky draw. Yi Tianyun recalled the number of times he had obtained in the lottery and immediately activated the lottery roulette to use this chance. With the support of the lucky aura, it spun rapidly and finally stopped at the accessory category. Accessory type? Yi Tianyun was delighted. He was currently in need of top-notch accessories in this area. Could it be that, with excitement, he opened the wooden box, and a ring appeared in front of him? Ancient ring, one of the 3 pieces of ancient set equipment, ancient level treasure. Wearing it increases strength by 10 times, 30% critical hit rate, double critical hit damage. Using 8,000 crazy point, the user can use Ancient Rampage, 100% critical hit rate and quadruple damage. Sure enough, it's the ancient set equipment. Yi Tianyun was excited. This means that he has 2 pieces of ancient set equipment. If he continues to get the 3rd piece, he will be able to collect a complete set of equipment. After collecting a complete set, there will definitely be a top-notch bonus. How can he not be excited? Just their effects alone were enough to excite him. It's much stronger than other accessories. As expected of an ancient level treasure, it's even better than a Saint King stage treasure. Knock, knock, knock. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Lee Dun-yoon adjusted his mood and looked up and said, "Come in." Immediately, a beautiful figure walked in from the outside. It's Yi Qingxian. Yi Qingxian is as cold as always. Only when she sees Lee Dun-yoon, she shows a faint smile. "Great Emperor, you called me?" Yi Qingxian smiled. "You have worked hard this time. You have to take over a new territory." Lee Dun-yoon shook his head and said, "How can it be hard? Because of the Great Emperor, our forces are unprecedentedly glorious. Especially our spirit race is even more glorious than before. Many scattered spirit race members have now returned. Compared to the status of our spirit race before, we are even more dazzling now." Yi Qingxuan's beautiful eyes are full of excitement. She doesn't feel tired at all. She has always wanted spirit race to return to its peak. Now, not only did they return to their peak, but they are also much stronger than before. Especially now that they are the leaders of spirit race, most of the things are managed by them, their power is even more terrifying. It's not that they don't want to give Heavenly Jade Sect a chance, but those who are more capable have more power. But Heavenly Jade Sect has Yue and the others, so they also have a lot of power. "Great Emperor, you called us?" At this time, Yue and Jiao Lingyun appeared outside the door and walked in one by one. They are all women, but they are the pillars of Heavenly Cloud's empire. They manage a lot of things, and the power they have is even more amazing. Who would have thought that these weak women are the core figures who hold the power? But now, their cultivation is also not low, and they have all improved by leaps and bounds with the help of many medicinal pills and martial arts. Their cultivation is generally in the core transformation stage, and this speed is really amazing. Unfortunately, there is one person missing here, and that is Shi Shuiyun, which makes his heart feel empty. "It's great to have you in Heavenly Cloud's empire," Lee Tianyun said when he saw them. They were startled and their eyes turned red. Only they know the bitterness in their hearts. But they didn't say anything. Since they sit in this position, they have to bear all kinds of hardships and responsibilities. But after hearing Lee Tianyun's words, they felt that it was all worth it. They worked so hard, to a large extent, to respond to Lee Tianyun. If it weren't for him, they would probably be unknown, facing difficulties, or even dead. Chapter 636. Lee Tianyun looked at the women in front of him. How could he not know how hard they worked? No management was easy. No matter how much one indulged in power, it was still built on the basis of maturity. They fought countless battles along the way and experienced many life and death situations, but they still clenched their teeth and persevered. "What are you crying for? There's nothing to cry about." Lee Dun-yoon waved his hand gently and wiped away their tears. "The Heavenly Cloud's empire will depend on you in the future. If you're tired, put it down for now and take a good rest." "Great Emperor, you haven't rested. How can we dare to rest?" "Yes, we're not tired, we're far worse than the Great Emperor." They all smiled brightly. Compared to Tianyun, they were still far behind. This wasn't a lie. Lee Dun-yoon had been fighting outside, and it was very likely that he would die outside. Compared to the safety of the Heavenly Cloud's empire, it was nothing. Lee Dun-yoon just smiled and didn't say anything. "This time, I asked you to come here mainly to talk about a few things. The first thing is relatively simple. I plan to leave the mortal world and go to the ghost world to deal with some things." Lee Tianyun's eyes turned cold. Although he didn't say it clearly, they all knew what he meant. Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom. If this trouble wasn't eliminated, it would cause a lot of trouble for Lee Tianyun, so it must be eliminated. Even if they couldn't be uprooted, at least they had to be suppressed. Everyone nodded and expressed their understanding. "The second thing is to go to the heaven world to find my aunt." Lee Tianyun's voice became heavy. After so many days, he finally had to go to the heaven world to find his aunt. He didn't know what force took Shi Shuiyun away, but as long as it was in the heaven world, he would be able to find it. "Yes, we must bring Palace Lord Shi back. She's the one who paid the most. If you leave just like that, you will be letting her down. More importantly, you are being irresponsible to us." "Yes, Palace Lord Shi's contribution is more than all of us combined. We're not talking nonsense. but she has always worked harder than anyone else. Compared to Shi Shuiyun, they felt inferior. Shi Shuiyun was the one who supported the Heavenly Cloud's empire in the early days. In the end, he chose to go to the heaven world for the sake of the Heavenly Cloud's empire. He wasn't sure if she had been threatened, but it was true that she had left because of Tianyun, so he had to bring Shi Shuiyun back. How could Tianyun not know this? He knew it a long time ago in Jade Palace. Shi Shuiyun was paving the way for him. Although he had done a lot, it was nothing compared to what Shi Shuiyun had done. Even though he was the one who fought for the empire, if there was no one to manage it, it would eventually collapse. Shi Shuiyun managed everything well, which was admirable. Of course I know that. Tianyun's eyes flickered. He looked at them and smiled faintly. I will bring her back. Definitely. The third thing is relatively simple. Tianyun waved his hand, and 3 divine tools appeared in front of him, all of which were the previous spoils of war. He looked up at them and said, "These 3 divine tools belong to you. Familiarize yourself with them, and don't use them unless it's a critical moment." Divine tool? They were shocked. This was a weapon that only the great emperor could use, but now it was their turn to use it. It was already quite amazing that they could use divine tools. Even Void Spirit stage powerhouses rarely had divine tools. Not only did they have divine tools, but they also had several of them. It was really shocking that they could get divine tools now. This is too precious. It should be left for the great emperor to protect himself. They nodded one by one. Although it was very precious, they felt that it was more important to give it to Tianyun to protect himself. You are now the pillars of the empire, and these divine tools are under your management. It's more important to be responsible for you. Tianyun said in a tone that he couldn't refuse. I told you to accept it, so you should accept it. Do you think I didn't leave anything behind? Okay. They could only reluctantly accept it, but they were still a little worried. I have arranged most of the things, and the rest is up to you. Tianyun stood up and said, I believe that the Heavenly Cloud's empire will be more glorious in the future, not only in the mortal world, but also in the heaven world and even the ghost world. Their eyes lit up, and they were excited. Tianyun not only wanted to develop in the mortal world, but also in the heaven world and the ghost world. Didn't this mean that he wanted to unify the 3 realms? After saying everything that needed to be said, they all went back to their rooms. Only Yi Qingxian didn't leave immediately. Great Emperor, I have something for you. Yi Qingxian thought for a moment and took out a talisman and handed it to Tianyun. Heaven and Earth God Rune. After seeing it, Tianyun's eyes suddenly sank. What are you doing? How can you do such a thing? It's so harmful to your body. The power of Heaven and Earth God Rune was amazing, and only the spirit race could inscribe it. The only drawback was that it was too harmful to the body. Yi Qingxian gave it to Tianyun before, and its power was indeed amazing, but it was too harmful to the body, so Tianyun didn't let Yi Qingxian continue to inscribe it. I have the blood jade stone you gave me before, so I can replenish it in time. Yi Qingxian looked at Tianyun with her beautiful eyes and said, I know it's dangerous for you outside, so this is the only thing I can do for you. After all, you are our king now, an indispensable king. Tianyun stared at Yi Qingxuan's beautiful eyes, and his heart trembled. If he collapsed, the Heavenly Cloud's empire would be finished, at least for now. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Tianyun took the talisman and said with a smile, If I can, I won't use this Heaven and Earth God rune. Tianyun put the divine rune talisman into his inventory. This was an extremely powerful killer move, so he must save it for later. It better be so. Yi Qingxian smiled and left with a peace of mind. Looking at their backs, Tianyun felt that he had a greater responsibility now. He was carrying the entire Heavenly Cloud's empire on his shoulders. It's time to go, Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom. Let me see how strong you are. Tianyun's figure disappeared in place, and the next moment, he appeared outside and flew towards the Ghost World passage at an extreme speed. Along the way, he flew at an extreme speed. When he entered the Ghost World passage, the flying effect around him didn't work at all. Because of the Guardian's power, Yun wasn't restricted at all, and he could fly at will. When Yun passed through the Ghost River, the cultivators who were making wooden rafts were stunned when they saw someone flying past them. Am I hallucinating? Can someone fly here? It's really flying. Isn't flying forbidden here? Let me try. Bullshit, I can't fly at all. How did he do it? Chapter 637. Ghost World, Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom. What's going on? Why are the cultivators in the mortal world so strong? We sent so many experts, but we still can't overthrow a mere mortal world empire? Imperial Preceptor Jiang of Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom said angrily. Many ministers kneeling on the ground were trembling. They were worried that this slap would land on their faces. According to the news, this Heavenly Cloud's great emperor is very powerful, and his cultivation has reached the Saint King stage. All the empires that chose to cooperate with us were destroyed in the end. The minister who was kneeling on the ground said with a trembling voice. The imperial preceptor in front of him was someone who would kill anyone he didn't like. But no matter who you were, if he didn't like you, he would kill you. This was a relatively extreme situation. Under normal circumstances, the imperial preceptor would just slap them in the face and seriously injure them. Even so, no one wanted to be slapped in the face. There is a Saint King stage cultivator in the mortal world? Ji Yang's eyes narrowed. He was very clear about the situation in the mortal world. The restrictions there were strong, and the spiritual energy there was relatively thin. It was a bit incredible that there was a Saint King stage cultivator in the mortal world. Yes, according to the information we received. The minister reported. Trash. Ji Yang slapped the minister across the air, and with a pa sound, the minister was sent flying. His mouth was crooked, and he was on the verge of death. The minister kneeling on the side felt a chill in his heart. He didn't show any mercy. The most important thing was that the minister didn't do anything but collect information. He couldn't go up to investigate the matter, and he couldn't do anything. Drag him away and treat him well. Ji Yang looked coldly at the minister lying on the ground, then immediately turned his head to look at them and said, "You are all trash. You can't even do a single thing properly, and you didn't even investigate the matter clearly. How can you do your job?" The World Dragon Empire was supposed to be a puppet empire to help us, but who knew it would be destroyed? This matter must be investigated thoroughly. Didn't I tell you before? Please punish us, Imperial Preceptor. They could only bow their heads and admit their mistakes. In their hearts, they were very unconvinced because Jiang always said that they should suppress the Heavenly Cloud's empire as soon as possible. Now they were asked to investigate thoroughly. Didn't they want to investigate thoroughly before taking action? If it wasn't for Jiang telling them to hurry up, how would they dare to take their time? If they really slowed down the investigation, they would be slapped again. It was really difficult. All right, let's put this matter aside for the time being. In the mortal world, there are Saint King stage experts. It's really difficult to deal with them. Ji Yang said coldly, the passage is still at a stage where it is difficult to pass through. After a period of time, the power will weaken. At that time, I will personally go up and suppress the great emperor of the mortal world. His eyes were filled with killing intent. How could he not be angry when the capable general he sent was killed? Since it was a Saint King, he had no choice but to do it himself. Otherwise, no matter how many Spirit King stage cultivators he sent out, they would only be cannon fodder. Honorable Imperial Preceptor, you want to go there personally? They were all incomparably shocked. Why was he so attached to the mortal realm? They really didn't know the reason. If I don't go up, are you going up? Ji Yang looked at him coldly, causing the minister to tremble in fear. The minister immediately shut up and didn't dare to say a word. But I don't have the energy for the time being. Let's focus on the phoenix nest first. Ji Yang thought for a moment and looked at them. What's the situation at the Temple of Heaven? For the time being, there is still no way to conquer it. The divine runes are still unbreakable. One of the ministers said, the divine runes of the heaven creating divine king are not that easy to break. Ji Yang's eyes turned cold as he looked at the minister on the side and said, "Are the rest of the troops ready?" Reporting to the Imperial Preceptor, the Phoenix Slaying Squad has been formed and is ready to go at any time. This official had been standing the entire time. He did not need to kneel like the other officials. Furthermore, his aura was completely different. He was like a sharp sword standing at the side, showing off his abilities. Very good. Ji Yang could finally smile. Then let's kill our way to the Phoenix Nest and force those old farts out. When the time comes, we'll ruthlessly bleed them. After preparing for so many years, it's finally time to reap the harvest. When the time comes, we'll ask our ancestors to come out and coordinate with them from the inside. Even if the Phoenix clan's old ancestor crawls back to his feet, he'll still be dead. Yes. The minister on the side nodded heavily as a bloody light flashed in his eyes. He was ready to kill at any time. Finally, we can do something exciting. As long as we exterminate the Phoenix race, we can use their blood to cultivate a large number of experts. Ji Yang said with a smile. I wonder how great General Ming Shen's preparations are going? General Ming Shen is ready to go at any time. The minister reported. Very good. Ji Yang glanced at the ministers who were kneeling on the ground and said coldly, "Go back and investigate the situation in the mortal world. Investigate everything inside and out." Yes, Imperial Preceptor. The ministers hurriedly got up and left. They didn't dare to stay here for a second longer. We can go to the Phoenix Nest now. Ji Yang's eyes flashed fiercely. He could smell the scent of blood. In the Phoenix Nest, the situation was the same as before. Everyone was cultivating and didn't feel any danger. Just when they thought that it would be the same today, they suddenly heard a loud bang from outside. The outermost spatial gate was blasted away. The guards outside were also blasted away. Everything happened too suddenly. The spatial gate was broken just like that. There's an enemy attack. The guard who was blasted away used the last bit of his strength to crush the leaf in his hand. Then all the fire parasol trees in the Phoenix Nest started burning crazily and instantly formed a huge array. In an instant, the inside of the Phoenix Nest turned into a huge flame cage. It even enveloped the spatial gate. The terrifying flame cage blocked everything. The Phoenix clan really has some foundation. The whole area of the fire parasol trees can form a defensive array. Interesting. At this time, Ji Yang walked in from outside. He maintained a smile on his face as if everything had nothing to do with him. At the same time, Yi Tianyun was constantly repairing the divine runes in the Netherworld passage. Suddenly, his eyebrows twitched as he felt that something was wrong. Strange. Why do I feel that something is wrong? Yi Tianyun didn't immediately enter the Netherworld. He was still repairing the divine runes here to prevent them from collapsing. Ding! Successfully accepted urgent quest, rescue Phoenix Clan. Reward, 500. 000 000 EXP 10. 000 CPS, 10. 000 SBS, 200 Phoenix Clan favorability. Chapter 638. The Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom's Imperial Preceptor, Ji Yang, and a large number of powerhouses rushed in without any warning. It wasn't until they broke in that everyone in the Phoenix Nest was alarmed. What's going on? Did an enemy break in? Who is it? While Bai Shui Huang and the others were discussing matters in the Elders' Meeting Hall, the outside was suddenly enveloped by flames. Only in a very critical situation would the guards open the sealing array. Normally, they wouldn't open it at will because it would consume a lot of spiritual power. Once it was opened, it represented absolute danger, and it was a danger that would endanger the entire Phoenix clan. The most important thing was that they didn't feel anything at all. There were many divine rune arrays outside the space-time gate that would be triggered once someone broke in. The Elders Guild inside immediately knew. Right now, they didn't know anything at all. Only when the guards activated the defensive formation did they know that someone had broken in. Soon after, flames burst forth from their bodies, and they quickly turned into streaks of red light as they flew out of the gate. It wasn't just by Shui Huang and the others. Every member of the Phoenix clan, whether they were in retreat, cultivating, or guarding something, had to leave as soon as possible. Even the strongest defensive array had been opened, which meant that they had entered a life and death situation. So who would dare to stay in the secret room? Unless it was those old farts. In any super divine kingdom, there would always be some old farts in retreat. They didn't care about anything, not because they were too indifferent, but because their lifespan was coming to an end, and there was little they could do. In the end, the only thing they could do was crawl out from the deepest part of the space-time gate and launch the last attack. After blocking it, they would either die, or their lifespan would be greatly shortened. They wouldn't be able to live for more than a few days. Therefore, they wouldn't come out until the critical moment. Now that the defensive array had been opened, the real power to wake them up was still in the hands of Bai Shuihuang. Once she crushed the jade pendant, she would do her best to resist the attack. Phoenixes weren't really immortal, they could still die, but their lifespan was relatively longer. In an instant, they arrived outside the space-time gate and immediately saw Ji Yang and the other powerhouses walking out of the space-time gate and into their territory. However, because the flame cage was firmly enveloping the area, they didn't immediately break in. "How dare you!" Bai Shuihuang shouted. A red light flashed in her hand, and 2 red scales shot out towards Ji Yang at lightning speed. Ji Yang gently raised his hand and deflected the red light. After the red light circled around in the air, it returned to Bai Shuihuang's hand. Only then did she see that the 2 thin scales contained an astonishing amount of flame power, and it was the immortal fire. The Phoenix Plume Crimson Flame is a pretty good god item. If your ancestor were to use it, it might have some effect on me. However, it's still far from enough for you. Of Ji Yang's attack, Bai Shuihuang said. Of Ji Yang's palm, but he didn't suffer any serious injuries. Under the violent attack of the divine artifact, only a faint mark was left behind. This was enough to show how powerful Ji Yang was. However, the gap between them was obvious. Ji Yang's cultivation was at the 5th layer of the Saint King stage while Bai Shuihuang had a breakthrough recently, but she was only at the 9th layer of the Spirit King stage. The gap between the two was like a chasm, and a divine artifact couldn't make up for it. Imperial Preceptor Ji Yang, our Phoenix clan has no enmity with you. Why are you attacking us? Bai Shuihuang stared at Ji Yang. The main reason why she was so anxious was because Ji Yang was holding the guard in his hand. He was ready to crush the guard's body to extract his blood essence. Only the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom could do such a cruel thing. No grudges. After Ji Yang laughed, he squeezed the guard's heart. Along with a scream, the guard's heart was ripped out. Although Bai Shuihuang and the others screamed, it was useless. They couldn't kill their way out. If they did, it would be equivalent to entering the enemy's encirclement. At that time, they would end up like this guard, with their hearts dug out. Ji Yang put the beating heart into his mouth and chewed it slowly like he was eating a snack. He savored it and said, "This fragrance is too wonderful. Also, the taste of the phoenix blood, I've been too obsessed with it. It's been a long time since I've eaten so freely, especially in front of the phoenix race." A smile appeared on his face, and it looked so sinister. "Ji Yang, your heavenly netherworld divine kingdom is dead," Bai Shuihuang said coldly. She took out a jade pendant and crushed it. "That's what I want. When those old bastards come out, I'll take care of them all." Ji Yang looked at her action and wasn't surprised at all. This was a signal for help, but he didn't stop her. "It seems like your heavenly netherworld divine kingdom is determined to win this time," Bai Shuihuang said coldly. There were a lot of powerhouses coming, including 2 Saint King stage powerhouses. One of them was Ji Yang, and the other was General Ming Shun, the other Saint King stage powerhouse of the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom. His cultivation was also at the 4th layer of the Saint King stage, but he was slightly weaker than the imperial teacher. Not only that, but there were also a lot of Spirit King stage powerhouses behind them, especially a group of people wearing light blue clothes. Their faces couldn't be seen clearly as it was covered by a cloak. However, she could clearly feel that this group of people was very dangerous, and it felt like death was approaching. Obviously, They came prepared, but they didn't know anything about it. They didn't know anything about the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom's plan. Of course, otherwise, why do you think we came here? Ji Yang smiled and said, "Let's continue the previous topic. You said that you have no grievances with me? For the time being, let's start with the evil spirit race. What do you think of the hatred between us? There's no need to hide it, we're already here. Do you think we can still act like friends and greet each other with a hypocritical smile?" Ji Yang was right. Since they had already come to the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom, it meant that there was no room for reconciliation. Even if they handed over all their treasures, it would be useless, because they needed the lives of the entire Phoenix clan, so begging for mercy and giving treasures was meaningless. "It seems that you have admitted that you are the descendants of the evil spirit race?" Bai Shuihuang sneered. "Do you think we can turn the tables today?" Ji Yang said calmly, "We've prepared a lot for this day. I didn't think that our plan would be ruined. However, it's not a big deal. It's still under control. Today is the day the Phoenix clan is erased from the netherworld. Remember it well. Remember it with fresh blood." Ji Yang sneered. He stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion. Another guard was pulled over. Next, he clenched his fist, and the guard was reduced to a mist of blood that scattered around. Bai Shuihuang and the others felt pain in their hearts. If the anger in their eyes could kill, Ji Yang would have already been burned to ashes. The war was about to break out, and Yi Tianyun quickly rushed over, feeling that something was wrong. Chapter 639. The heavenly netherworld divine nation and the Phoenix race have officially shed all pretense of cordiality. Previously, they had been smiling at each other, but now, they were no longer showing any hypocritical smiles. Killing 2 guards in a row was the best proof of that. Moreover, it was impossible for them to get back on their feet now that they had entered the heavenly netherworld divine nation. They had thought this way a long time ago. As the descendants of the evil spirit race, how could they easily forgive the actions of the Phoenix race? The Phoenix race would also not forgive the actions of the evil spirit race. Even their descendants would be ruthlessly eradicated. The reason why the Phoenix race slaughtered the Phoenix race was to absorb the blood essence of the Phoenix race. The Phoenix clan had always been one to not offend others as long as the enemy did not offend them. Since they had offended the Phoenix race, they would be eradicated. Suddenly, the 2 phoenix feathers in Bai Shuihuang's hands turned into red light and shot out at a speed 10 times faster than before. Swoosh! It went straight towards Ji Yang. Ji Yang quickly raised his hand to block the attack, but this time, he did not block it with his bare hands. He took out a fan and waved it in front of him. Dang! Ji Yang was forced to take a few steps back. 2 marks appeared on the fan in his hand, but it did not penetrate through the fan. Obviously, this fan was not an ordinary item, it was a divine artifact. Although divine tools were not as common as cabbages on the streets, to a Saint King, not having 1 or 2 divine tools to protect himself would really be too weak. Especially when a divine artifact was not even a divine artifact, it was really a joke. The imperial preceptor of the heavenly netherworld divine nation. He is indeed very young. Compared to us old farts, he is much stronger. An old man in red floated down from the sky. The 2 phoenix feathers landed in his hands. Although he looked old, there was not the slightest hint of turbidity in his eyes. Instead, his gaze was filled with sharpness, not one bit inferior to that of a young person. Yes, but is the heavenly netherworld divine nation bullying the Phoenix race? Our Phoenix race has been in seclusion for a long time. Do they think that our Phoenix race is weak? Another old man wearing a red robe landed from the sky. It seems that we 3 old farts have to prove to the heavenly netherworld divine nation and the whole netherworld that our Phoenix race is not weak. Another old man appeared on the side with a faint smile on his face. We pay our respects to the 3 ancestors, they respectfully shouted. These 3 were the ancestors of the Phoenix clan, 3 Saint King stage powerhouses. The weakest among them was at the Saint King stage 4th layer, while the strongest was at the Saint King stage 7th layer, crushing the 2 opposing masters with absolute power. This was the foundation of the Phoenix clan. If one didn't come out of seclusion, one wouldn't know how strong the Phoenix clan was. Many members of the Phoenix clan heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the 3 old ancestors. With the 3 of them here, there would be no problem. As expected of the Phoenix clan. I didn't expect them to have 3 patriarchs. The outside world said that the Phoenix clan only has 1 patriarch. Now, it seems like that was just a rumor. Ji Young laughed. He didn't look worried at all. The Phoenix race had a longer lifespan, so it was not surprising that they had 3 great ancestors. The most powerful one was much stronger than them. It had to be said that the gap between them was quite big, but he was not afraid. Because all of this was within the scope of his calculations, and it did not exceed his expectations. Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom, as the descendants of the evil spirit race, you actually hid in the shadows and pretended that nothing had happened to you. Fortunately, we found out about it, otherwise, we would have been kept in the dark. Bai Shui Huang said coldly. Since you have come to our door, then we will fight to the end. Previously, they had been suppressing the anger in their hearts. Now they were ready to fight fiercely. Is that so? With this great array, or just you 3 old ancestors? Ji Yang said with a smile. It's more than enough to deal with you. Bai Shui Huang said coldly. Since you are so confident, then the stage is ready. Let's begin. Ji Yang smiled, but in their eyes this smile seemed a little strange, and there was even a hint of success in it. Not good. The faces of the 3 old ancestors changed, including Bai Shui Huang. They suddenly remembered something, and that was the evil spirit that was suppressed in the Phoenix cave. Boom, boom, boom. At this time, the ground shook, and the vibration came from the side of the Phoenix cave, which made their faces change. Sure enough, there was a change in the Phoenix cave. It was not that Yi Tianyun's divine runes were too bad, but someone had sneaked in and took advantage of the fact that they were all gathered here to unseal it. Haha, it's too late. Do you think that our heavenly netherworld holy king will not come in person for such a glorious event? Moreover, it's time for him to take back his doppelganger. Ji Yang laughed. He was not in a hurry, he just wanted to buy time. Who would have thought that the other party would take the bait without any trouble? Who would have thought that the Phoenix clan would sneak in from another place? Doppelganger. The current heavenly netherworld holy king is suppressing the evil spirit's doppelganger, and now he is going to fuse with it. Their faces were gloomy. In order to suppress the evil spirit, they had exhausted the life of 2 holy kings. But who would have thought that the evil spirit would escape and fuse with another doppelganger? They no longer paid attention to Ji Yang and the others, turned around and flew towards the Phoenix cave. After they left, Ji Yang smiled and waved his hand lightly. Do you really think that this broken array can trap us? The group of cultivators standing behind Ji Yang took off their blue robes, revealing their dark blue bodies. Cold chi was released from their bodies. Their faces and bodies were engraved with dark blue divine runes, as if they were strengthening something. After taking off their robes, the 12 Spirit King stage experts instantly fused together, releasing a sky-piercing cold air that froze everything in its path. Zizizi, when the flame cage was enveloped by the cold air, a harsh sound was heard, and the cage that seemed difficult to break was frozen in just a moment. The terrifying freezing flame easily suppressed the flame cage. What kind of power is this? The elder who was guarding the flame cage was shocked by the situation. This was a peerless grand array, how could it be so easy to break the cage? This is the heavenly Yin fire, which is specially used to restrain our fire power. Shopkeeper Yi and the others had seen the heavenly Yin fire before, but when they saw that all 12 of them could use the heavenly Yin fire, their hearts trembled. This was a power that could restrain them, and if they managed to break into the Phoenix cave, they would undoubtedly be able to suppress them. Chapter 640. When Bai Shui Huang and the others quickly arrived at the Phoenix cave, they saw that the place was filled with heavenly Yin fire. The previous immortal fire had already disappeared. In the face of the inexhaustible heavenly Yin fire, even the immortal fire could only retreat. No one could continue to release the immortal fire, so it could only be extinguished by the heavenly fire. Standing there, they could sense a terrifying power coming from the depths of the earth, shocking them. Moreover, this power was getting stronger and stronger, as if it was going to reach a higher level at any time. The evil spirit's soul has been liberated, and it seems that it's still in the process of fusing. We still have a chance to break the fusion. Old ancestor Feng Tian said. He was the strongest among them, so he planned to kill them all. Although the place was filled with heavenly fire, it was not difficult for them to extinguish it. Moreover, even if they let it burn their bodies, it would not cause too much trouble. Their cultivation was high, so they could resist the heavenly fire. They were also experts of the Phoenix clan, so they had high-grade Phoenix fire. Even if it was not as good as the heavenly fire, with their cultivation, they could still suppress it. Yes, let's go down quickly, we can't slow down. The other one was old ancestor Feng Yun, the second strongest among the group. They looked at each other, and the three of them immediately formed a triangular formation and rushed into the Phoenix cave. Wherever they went, the heavenly fire was quickly suppressed. As the patriarch, Bai Shui Huang also followed. She had the immortal fire, so she was not afraid of the heavenly fire. Moreover, they had already washed away the heavenly fire that was wrapped around them and forcibly opened up a path. Therefore, the others were able to catch up. However, not many people followed them, only Bai Shui Huang and Elder Feng, who was in charge of the treasure house. The other elders were guarding outside the door. If everyone came, no one would be able to guard the entrance. Moreover, they were facing the heavenly netherworld holy king and the evil spirit. Those with low cultivation would not be of much help. If even the three old ancestors couldn't deal with them, then the others would not be able to help. After they quickly flew down, they saw a middle-aged man who was absorbing the black fog in the depths of the ground bit by bit. His speed was neither fast nor slow. Every time he absorbed a bit of the black mist, the handsome middle-aged man would become slightly stronger. Without a doubt, this middle-aged man was the heavenly netherworld holy king, the strongest expert of the heavenly netherworld divine nation and the mastermind behind the scenes. Originally, Yang Kai's cultivation had reached the Saint King stage 8th layer, and as he absorbed it into his body, his strength increased little by little. At this rate, if he were to continue like this, he would probably break through to the level of a peak Saint King, or even the level of a God King. When one reached the God King level, one could basically walk unhindered in the three realms. No one knew if there were any godly monarchs in the three realms. Up until now, no godly monarchs had appeared. It might be hiding in a corner or it might not be there. If there were no other god kings, once the Sky Netherworld Holy King broke through, he would be able to dominate the three realms. When the three realms were dominated by the evil spirit race, they would definitely fall into absolute darkness. If one looked carefully, they would discover that there was actually a big hole on the side. After an unknown period of time, a large hole had already been dug out here. One must know that this place was inscribed with divine imprints. How could one avoid these divine imprints to enter? But the fact was in front of them. The Sky Netherworld Holy King had secretly dug a hole while they were out. By the time they reacted, it was already too late. The Sky Netherworld Holy King had already broken a little of the divine imprints and allowed his doppelganger to return to his body. It should be said that it was originally a whole body, and now it was all taken back. Once it was completely integrated, it would reach an even more terrifying realm. No wonder there was such a big attack. With the ancestors, even the Phoenix race would probably be suppressed. Stop him! The three of them looked at each other and quickly poured out the Phoenix fire from their bodies. In an instant, they merged together and turned into a huge fireball that smashed towards the Sky Netherworld Holy King. Even in the face of the immortal fire and heavenly fire, the terrifying flames could be swallowed up. The surging heavenly fire along the way was quickly swallowed up by this huge fireball, and then turned into nothingness. Finally, it hit the Sky Netherworld Holy King's body, causing a violent flame explosion. Boom! The deafening sound spread in all directions, and the entire Phoenix cave shook as if it would collapse at any time. The joint attack of 3 Holy King powerhouses was naturally not bad. After the explosion dissipated, they found that the Sky Netherworld Holy King was unscathed, and his body was shrouded in a faint blue light. The light was emitted from the crystal on his chest, and it released a hard shield that blocked the attack of the 3 Holy Kings. Middle-grade divine artifact. They gasped, not expecting the Sky Netherworld Holy King to have a middle-grade divine artifact. Normally, it was a low-grade divine artifact, and it was rare to see a middle-grade divine artifact. This divine artifact was quite powerful, and even in the face of the attacks of the 3 powerhouses, it was still not broken. Be good and wait at the side, it will be your turn soon. The Sky Netherworld Holy King smiled sinisterly, and continued to concentrate on absorbing his soul. If it was not for the fact that the seal was too hard, it would have been sucked out long ago. Continue to attack. The 3 old ancestors did not stop attacking. Even if it was a middle-grade divine artifact, it would eventually be broken. So far, they could only attack crazily, and there was no other way. Boom, boom, boom. Immediately after, they used all their skills and continuously attacked fiercely. For a moment, the Phoenix Cave was about to be blown up by the bombardment. At the same time, when Ji-young broke through the flame cage, it meant that the Phoenix clan was in an absolute danger zone. How could 2 Saint King stage powerhouses resist them? Coupled with so many Spirit King stage powerhouses, it was really difficult for them to resist. Elder Luo, Elder Lei, and the others were surrounded by 12 experts with heavenly Een fire. They wanted to capture all the members of the Phoenix clan. They wouldn't be killed so easily. To Ji-young, these were all precious blood essences. He definitely couldn't waste them. It was a bit wasteful to kill all of them and collect all their blood essences, so it was better to capture them and extract them little by little. Don't struggle pointlessly. Just let yourself be caught. Ji-young smiled, and at the same time he stretched out his hand and said, "Go and capture all the children of the Phoenix clan, they are more precious than these old guys." "How dare you!" Elder Luo roared, and instantly burned his blood essences. In order to prevent his granddaughter from being captured, he immediately burned his blood essences and prepared to risk his life. "How dare you be so arrogant? Get out of here!" Ji-young's figure flashed, and he stretched out his hand to slap Elder Luo. A palm print appeared on Elder Luo's chest. Elder Luo snorted, and after a long distance, he barely managed to stop himself. His chest was already sunken, and he was seriously injured. Ji-young didn't kill him. He definitely wanted to capture him alive. Only a living person would be valuable. "Grandfather!" A beautiful figure flew over, and it turned out to be a 15 or 16-year-old girl. After flying over, she helped her grandfather up and said worriedly, "Grandfather, are you okay? I'll take you away now." "How did you come out?" Elder Luo was terrified. They had been hiding well, but they actually came out. "But I'm worried about grandfather." This girl was none other than Luo Yen. In just a few short months, in just half a year, she had already grown into a young lady. It was simply unbelievable. Obviously, her memory had recovered, and she knew a lot of things. "You want to leave? It's too late now." Ji-young licked his lips and said, "It looks delicious, I wonder how it tastes." Luo Yan's face turned pale, but she still held Elder Luo and quickly ran away. But how could they escape faster than Ji-young? Shoo! Suddenly, a beam of light shot out and instantly slashed at his outstretched palm. Ji-young had no choice but to slap it back and disperse the attack. Chapter 641. Yi Tianyun's familiar figure walked in from the outside of the space-time gate. The familiar face didn't change at all. When Elder Luo and the others saw Yi Tianyun, how could they not recognize him? It's just that at this critical moment, Yi Tianyun actually appeared to help them. They are grateful, but in the current situation, isn't it a suicide mission? There were 2 Saint King stage powerhouses on the side, and there were also many Spirit King stage powerhouses not far away. Even though his cultivation was not bad, and he could kill 5 Spirit King stage powerhouses in a row, he still couldn't kill them. But now that they were facing two Saint King stage cultivators, they could only wait for death. There were too many strong cultivators, especially those who could use the heavenly Een fire. Even the immortal fire wouldn't be able to suppress them. Go! Elder Luo screamed, "You stupid humans, do you want to take advantage of people's difficulties to kill?" He suddenly yelled at Yi Tianyun, not with a smile on his face. Of course, he wasn't scolding Yi Tianyun, but deliberately driving him away. He didn't want Ji Yang to think that Yi Tianyun was a friend of the Phoenix clan. "Daddy!" Luo Yan's eyes suddenly turned red when she saw Yi Tianyun, but she didn't say anything. Yi Tianyun didn't pay attention to Elder Luo's words and continued to walk towards them. He looked at Luo Yan with surprise. In such a short period of time, Yi Tianyun could grow so big. It seems that he has undergone a transformation, otherwise, he wouldn't have grown so fast. The situation of a phoenix is quite special. After a transformation, there will be a big change. Obviously, he is still a child, but after the transformation, he may become a slim and graceful girl. "You think I don't know what you are thinking?" Ji Yang looked at Yi Tianyun and said, "I heard that the one who repaired the divine runes is a human cultivator, so it's very likely that it's him. There are so many cultivators of the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom outside who would dare to break in." Only then did he remember that there was an inescapable net outside. It was extremely difficult to break in. Unless he killed a group of cultivators, it was impossible to enter. The fact that Yi Tianyun had walked in just like that meant that the inescapable net outside had been broken. Of course, it was also possible that he had snuck in. Ji Yang's words made Elder Luo and the others' faces change. They immediately shouted, "Hurry up and leave. This is the Imperial Advisor of the Nether Heaven Divine Kingdom. You can't beat him. What's the point of shouting now? Once you enter my line of sight, you won't be able to escape." Ji Yang wasn't anxious at all. Instead, he waved his hand and signaled his subordinates to surround him. "You've already reached the level of a divine inscriptionist at such a young age. I'll give you a chance now. Submit to me, and I'll guarantee you riches and glory. As long as you like it, you can choose any of the Phoenix race's members, and they will be under your control. Other than that, there are other positions that are much better than staying here." Ji Yang could see that Yi Tianyun was somewhat concerned about Luo Yan, so he threw out the temptation. Facing a genius like Yi Tianyun, Ji Yang still cherished his talent. It should be said that Yi Tianyun was a human, so Ji Yang wasn't interested in him. He was only interested in his abilities. "Is that so? Then I want the entire Phoenix race to be under my control. Are you willing?" Yi Tianyun sneered. Ji Yang's expression didn't change. He still maintained a faint smile, as if everything was under his control. As expected of a loyal dog of the Phoenix race. "Do you think that the Phoenix race will win this time?" Ji Yang smiled. "A loyal dog of the Phoenix race? Compared to trash like you, I feel that he's a little better." Yi Tianyun said indifferently. "They will definitely win, because I'm here." "Huh, aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue?" Ji Yang waved his hand impatiently. "Forget it, the entertainment is over. Don't waste my time. Let's get rid of him and let him die a painful death." 3 Spirit King stage experts rushed towards Yi Tianyun without hesitation. The weakest of them was at the 4th layer of Spirit King stage, and the strongest was at the 6th layer. They were all elite experts, but they weren't the ones who had surrounded Yi Tianyun. "Father!" Luo Yan's beautiful face paled as she shouted, her heart in her throat. No one had seen how Yi Tianyun fought before, but this time, the 3 of them surrounded him, and they were much stronger than the previous time on the heaven-ascending divine altar. Tianyun stretched out his hand, and the heavenly netherworld divine sword fell into his hand. Sizzle! The netherworld fire appeared on the sword and instantly ignited the surrounding air. When the sword appeared, Ji Yang and the others were stunned. They had never seen this sword before. It was the divine artifact of the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom, but now it was in the hands of Yi Tianyun. All of a sudden, they remembered the incident where a human killed 5 Spirit King stage powerhouses and obtained the inheritance of the heaven-creating divine king. "Don't go near him!" Ji Yang shouted. "But it's too late, A huge phantom appeared behind Yi Tianyun, followed by a whirling slash. The huge phantom pierced through the air with unparalleled power. The three spirit kings who rushed towards Yi Tianyun didn't have enough time to prepare themselves, and their bodies were pierced by the huge shadow. In an instant, the body that was charging over stiffened on the road. Soon after, with a poochie sound, his head flew into the air and 3 pillars of blood spurted out. It looked extremely bloody. Ding. Successfully killed a 6th layer Spirit King stage expert. Reward, EXP. Ding. Success. Yi Tianyun easily killed 3 Spirit King stage experts in a row. Even if they were stronger than Yi Tianyun, they were nothing in front of his excellent equipment. He was wearing the Desolate Ancient Necklace and Desolate Ancient Ring, which was more than enough to crush anything in front of him. More importantly, he was still wearing the Evil God set. Because he had not transformed, his body looked pitch black, which made him look somewhat demonic. Do you recognize this sword? Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently and said, "This sword's power is not bad, I haven't used it before. Today, I will use your divine sword to sacrifice everyone, including you." Before she could finish her sentence, Luo Yan revealed a horrified expression. She opened her mouth to say something, but her voice was half a beat too slow. A figure appeared behind Yi Tianyun, shining blue light piercing his back. The speed is so fast that people can only see an afterimage. The corners of Ji Yang's mouth had already curled up into a cold smile. It was a disdainful smile. Yi Tianyun didn't even look at his back, and he slashed his sword at the figure. The evil spirit's suit on his body shone with an amazing black light. In an instant, a domineering black sword light slashed towards the figure behind him, and it was more than 10 meters high. Boom! The phantom was blasted away and was forced to retreat continuously by the sword light. Moreover, it continuously cut into his body, wanting to cut him into 2. "Break for me!" The figure roared and slammed his hands forward. Bang! The black sword light was barely crushed, but a deep wound was left on his body. It was so deep that his bones could be seen. Everyone finally saw who the sneak attacker was. It was General Ming Shen. But now, he was almost cut in half by Yi Tianyun's sword light. Is sneak attack fun? Yi Tianyun sneered. How could he not feel that someone was sneak attacking him? Chapter 642. With a single strike, Great General Ming Shen was sent flying, leaving a deep sword wound on his chest. This was a Saint King stage powerhouse, yet he was sent flying by a single strike. If it wasn't for his tough skin, he would have been cut in half. After everyone saw this, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This was too overbearing, far beyond their imagination. Obviously, Great General Ming Shen was only able to deal with Spirit King stage powerhouses before. Even the most famous Great General Ming Shen was almost cut in half by a single strike. The power of this attack made everyone's pupils shrink and their scalp tingle. Although Yi Tianyun's strength was very strong, the main problem was that his strength had increased a little too fast. This was not in line with what they knew at all. How is this possible? Ji Yang's smile froze. This was beyond his expectations and beyond his control. Oracle. Elder Luo sat up in shock and felt that the wound did not hurt at all. In addition to shock, there was still shock. Even Luo Yan was shocked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with admiration, and her heart was suddenly filled with hope. This was her father. Although she was mistaken, now that she saw Yi Tianyun's strength, the stone that was hanging on her chest finally fell down. Time is running out, let's solve this first. Yi Tianyun looked at the distant Phoenix Cave with a cold light flashing in his eyes. He could feel a terrifying power coming from there. If he continued to let it develop, he was afraid that it would be out of his control. His current strength was not bad, but once it was out of his control, even the evil spirit's set couldn't fill the gap. When the gap in cultivation reached a certain level, it would be impossible to resist this terrifying power. For example, this was the first time he faced Ji Yang head-on. Ji Yang was only at the 6th layer of the Saint King stage, but his battle prowess had already reached 2.5 billion. Once he used his full strength, his battle prowess would definitely be more than 5 or 6 billion. In this state he could still suppress it, but facing someone at the peak of the Saint King stage he was not sure. Especially the evil spirit, an existence from a long time ago. Now that it had become stronger, he didn't know what level it would reach. Since he didn't know, he had to kill it as soon as possible. Kill him. Ji Yang waved the divine fan in his hand. His eyes flashed with murderous intent. He would not allow anything that was out of his control to happen. In the next moment, his power instantly surged out, and the heavenly Yin fire was released from his body. The divine fan in his hand was filled with the heavenly Yin fire, and the divine runes on each of its ribs were ignited. Almost in an instant, a huge hollow spirit appeared behind him. Its ghostly wails and wolf-like howls spread in all directions. The place where he stood was immediately eroded by the heavenly Yin fire. His combat power soared crazily, rushing to the 6 billion mark in a single breath, and even going up to the 7 billion mark. They didn't go all out, but at least they used more than half of their strength to test the waters. On the other side, Great General Ming Shin's expression was resolute, and the wounds on his body healed rapidly. In the blink of an eye, even the scars disappeared. His super healing ability was astonishing. The terrifying heavenly Yin fire was also ignited. He could also control the heavenly Yin fire, so this was not surprising. He stretched out his hand, and a heavenly nether divine spear fell into his hand. A faint ghostly wail came from the spear, and even a distorted demon could be seen howling out of the spear, trying to rush out of it. I haven't met such a strong opponent for a long time. Let me see how strong you are. The two Saint King stage powerhouses burst out at the same time. They wanted to eradicate this unknown force as soon as possible. As for Yi Tianyun, there was no need to take it slow. After all, it was useless to them. The power of the bloodline was certainly not as good as that of the Phoenix race. The power of the human race's bloodline was the most useless existence to them, so they were too lazy to care about it. Now they only had one goal, and that was to kill Yi Tianyun. "Daddy, be careful," Luo Yen shouted in a low voice. She was afraid that Yi Tianyun would be distracted, so she didn't shout. What a good kid. I don't know how he cultivated to reach such a level. But facing two Saint Kings, can he resist them? Elder Luo said with a worried look. Although Yi Tianyun had repelled Great General Mingshin, it didn't mean that he had absolute power. When Great General Mingshin launched a sneak attack, he didn't use his full strength. In their eyes, Yi Tianyun was just an ant that could be crushed at any time. It was normal for him to be attacked when he was careless. Now that he was going all out, the meaning was completely different. Especially with two Saint King stage powerhouses, each of them had enough experience, so how could they suppress them? Not only that, but his old friends were also trapped in the encirclement. The 12 heavenly Yin divine soldiers that could control the heavenly Yin fire were madly capturing the Phoenix race's people. As long as they were frozen by the heavenly Yin fire, they couldn't move at all and could only watch helplessly as they were captured. Hee, before you tell others to be careful, you should worry about yourself first. At this time, a sinister laughter came from the side, and a Spirit King stage powerhouse appeared beside them, ready to subdue them. He couldn't let them stay here forever. As long as they were Phoenix race's people, they must be captured. It seems that you are trying to provoke me, Yi Tianyun said coldly. If you want to save others, take care of yourself first. Great General Ming Shin, who was closest to Yi Tianyun, roared, and the divine spear in his hand pierced through Yi Tianyun's body. He wanted to return the favor. I don't have that much patience. Evil spirits mode. A black light flashed in Yi Tianyun's eyes, and in the next moment, a black flame burst out from the surface of his body, and at the same time, his body expanded rapidly, and in a blink of an eye, he turned into an evil spirit holding a divine sword, and slashed at the Spirit King stage powerhouse who was about to catch Luo Yen. Immediately, the black flame turned into a black sword chi and flew towards the Spirit King stage cultivator who was about to catch Luo Yen. It was as if the sword chi could track its target and cut the Spirit King stage cultivator in half. It was like cutting a piece of tofu, and it was as easy as cutting a piece of tofu. At the same time, the divine spear had already pierced towards Luo Yen, and every inch of space that it passed was turned into dust. But when the spear was about to reach Yi Tianyun, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the head of the spear, and the terrifying attack was stopped. Great General Mingshen was shocked. No matter how he attacked, he couldn't even pierce half an inch into the spear. This was an attack that he had used all of his strength, but it was completely useless. It had been completely blocked outside. Chapter 643. Seeing that Yi Tianyun was holding the divine spear, General Mingshen was shocked. He wanted to pull it back, but it didn't budge at all. No matter how much strength he used, he couldn't move it even a little bit. Just when he was about to burn his blood essence to suppress Yi Tianyun picked up the divine spear and lifted General Mingshen up. As soon as he lifted it up, he swung it forward. Boom! Ji Yang attacked, and Yi Tianyun used General Mingshen as a shield. Because the speed was too fast, Ji Yang didn't even have time to react, and the divine fan in his hand slashed down on General Mingshen's body. Great General Mingshen snorted. He felt like his body was about to be cut open. In fact, there was indeed a huge wound. General Mingshen was hit hard on his back, and he didn't even have the slightest defense. It was hard for him not to be seriously injured. Mingshen. Ji Yang's face changed, and he quickly retracted his attack. He grabbed General Mingshen and dragged him behind him, but General Mingshen didn't move at all. Did I allow you to take him away? Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and he grabbed General Mingshen and dragged him back. Even Ji Yang was dragged by General Mingshen, and he couldn't pull him back at all. In the end, he had to let go of General Mingshen. Bang! After Yi Tianyun dragged General Mingshen over, he slammed General Mingshen into the ground. His entire body had been smashed into the hard ground, and his entire body had sunk in. In particular, the wound on his back was so deep that his bones could be seen. It was truly a ghastly sight. What a domineering power! How did he cultivate? What kind of race is he? Ji Yang's face turned ugly. He wanted to save General Mingshen, but he couldn't do it. Everyone looked at Yi Tianyun in shock. Even a Spirit King stage expert was easily killed by an attack from a distance. Although they could attack from afar, the power of such a long-range attack was reduced. However, not only did his power not decrease, it still maintained its terrifying power. More importantly, this huge body was pitch black and was more than 2 meters tall. Its entire body was pitch black, and black flames spread out in all directions, even burning Great General Mingshen, who was under its feet. Get lost! The underworld god general's body emitted the surging heavenly Yin fire, which revolved inside his body and quickly enveloped Yi Tianyun. This scene shocked Elder Luo and the others. They almost forgot that this guy can also release the heavenly Yin fire. It's easy to get hit by it. When the heavenly Yin fire rolled up, the black flame on Yi Tianyun's body immediately suppressed it, and even swallowed it at an even more terrifying speed, burning the great General Mingshen to the point that he screamed in pain. What kind of flame is this? Get out of my way! General Mingshen couldn't get up no matter how hard he tried. He was trampled under Yi Tianyun's feet, and he couldn't move at all. Friend, if you kill him, we will make sure that you die without a burial place. If you leave now, we will not hold you responsible. Ji Yang walked over and began to negotiate. Previously, they thought that Yi Tianyun didn't have an equal status to communicate with them, but now, they finally knew that he was strong enough to crush them. They didn't dare to say that he could defeat their holy lord, but at least he could destroy their plan now. If they let these Phoenix Clan people go, then their plan would be in vain. For example, if they escaped to the mortal world, or even the heavenly realm, who would be able to find them? Even in the ghost world, if they really wanted to hide, it would be extremely difficult to find them. The ghost world was too big, and there were many places that even the heavenly netherworld divine kingdom hadn't been to before. Do you think you are qualified to negotiate with me now? Yi Tianyun held General Mingshen's divine spear and stabbed it at General Mingshen's body, nailing him to the ground. I am going to kill you. General Mingshen, who was nailed to the ground by the flames, shouted loudly. What he felt now was not pain, but a kind of humiliation. As a holy king, he was trampled on the ground and couldn't move. This humiliation was worse than killing him. There are many people who want to kill me, and you are not one of them. But if someone wants to kill me, I always like to eliminate them. Tianyun sneered, and the black flames on his body quickly began to burn faster, causing General Ming Shen to growl. Even if General Ming Shen was a veteran of hundreds of battles and had suffered countless injuries, the black flames could even burn his soul. The pain was not easy to get rid of. How dare you? Ji Yang was furious. This was his companion for many years, and he couldn't just watch him die. Heavenly Een Divine Soldiers, come over. The Heavenly Een Divine Soldiers, who were originally capturing the Phoenix clan, quickly gathered after hearing Ji Yang's summon. Activate the array. Ji Yang roared and closed the divine fan in his hand, and a large array immediately appeared under his feet. This group of Heavenly Een Divine Soldiers quickly gathered and stepped into the array. The Heavenly Een fire in their body immediately flowed along the array's meridians and rushed into Ji Yang's body. In the next moment, a huge nether dragon was formed by the Heavenly Een fire. However, this nether dragon was condensed by the Heavenly Een fire, which made it look even more terrifying and powerful. The combat power displayed by the appraisal eye was the best proof of its combat power. It was 8 billion combat power. As expected of a large array, it gathered all of its power and burst out with even more terrifying power. Especially with Ji Yang presiding over this large array, its power was even more amazing. I didn't want to use this array so soon, but I didn't expect that you would force me to use it. Ji Yang's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he was ready to control the Nether Dragon Divine Array to attack. The power is not bad, but what if there are a few people who are wrong? Tianyun's eyes flashed with a strange light, and two of the Heavenly Een Divine Soldiers who were within the 5th layer of Spirit King stage suddenly froze. Immediately, a terrifying Heavenly Een fire burst out from their body, and the large array that was originally balanced was immediately destroyed. What's going on? Ji Yang was incredibly shocked. He raised his head and looked at the Abyss Dragon, who was acting strangely. Then he quickly shouted, "Run!" As soon as Ji Yang shouted, the Nether Dragon in the sky suddenly exploded and turned into a terrifying Heavenly Een fire rain that directly devoured the Heavenly Een Divine Soldiers. Ding! Successfully killed a Heavenly Een Divine Soldier. Reward, 2, 1 billion EXP, 30,000 crazy points, 5,000 SPs. Obtained Heavenly Een Divine Art, Heavenly Een Great Array. Reward, Heavenly Een Fire, low-grade Earth level. Heavenly Een Divine Armor, high-grade Sacred Tool. Heavenly Een Boots, high-grade Sacred Tool. Ding! Successfully killed a Heavenly Een Divine Soldier. Reward, 3 billion EXP. Ding! A 5th or 6th layer Spirit King stage expert could give him 1 billion EXP, which made him speechless. That was because he had stacked all of his EXP card, Crazy Points card, and Sin Value card. Chapter 644. Ding! Successfully killed a Heavenly Een Divine Soldier. Reward, 3 billion EXP, 30,000 crazy points. Ding! Successfully killed. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 5th layer Spirit King stage. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 6th layer Spirit King stage. More than half of the Heavenly Een Divine Soldiers were killed by the Dark Dragon's explosion. That was a terrifying power. How could they be fine with their cultivation? Those who escaped quickly would be fine, but those who were slower, especially those who were in the center of the formation, would definitely die. Especially the two Heavenly Een Divine Soldiers controlled by Tianyun, they were directly killed by the explosion. Since he was the leader of the formation, the EXP of the other Heavenly Een Divine Soldiers that died will be counted to him. It would be a huge loss if the EXP was not counted to him. With the 221 times EXP stacking, he leveled up 2 times in a row. Originally, he was about to break through to 5th layer Spirit King stage, But now that he got so much EXP, he could naturally level up again. Since he knew that the heavenly netherworld divine nation was going to attack, it meant that he was going to go all out. In this state, he would definitely go on a killing spree. For this, even if he had to sell everything he had, he would buy all the EXP cards he had. With all the EXP stacking, he reached an amazing number. This was the highest value in history, shocking everyone. It crushed everyone else. What the hell happened? Why did they suddenly lose control? Ji Yang looked at the surviving heavenly divine soldiers and was shocked and angry. They had been cultivating for so long, how could they make a mistake? But they made a mistake here, and it was a very serious mistake. He could feel that two of his men suddenly burst out with their strongest power. This was not as simple as a mistake, it was deliberate. Otherwise, who would burst out with such strong power? Once the power was out of balance, it would lead to an explosion. This was the biggest weakness of the fusion formation. Once it failed, it would be very dangerous. If he didn't escape quickly, he would have been seriously injured by the explosion. Didn't you want to attack? Where is the attack? Lee Dong-yun smiled indifferently, as if everything was under his control. Previously, Ji Yang had been smiling confidently, but now he had already lost control of himself. He was in a sorry state. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the people he brought with him died. Initially, Elder Lei and the others were trapped. Now, they had managed to escape and recover. He stared blankly at the place where the explosion had occurred, feeling extremely shocked in his heart. Fortunately, something had gone wrong. Otherwise, it would have been really difficult for them to deal with. In his heart, he rejoiced in their misfortune. This kind of thing should happen more often. He sighed at their good luck. What they didn't know was that all of this was caused by Yi Tianyun's eyes of charm. A single charm was enough to make the heavenly divine soldier lose control. Is this your doing? Ji Yang was furious. No matter how he thought about it, he felt that it was Yi Tianyun's fault. If it wasn't him, who else could it be? My doing? So what? You bunch of trash, it's not enough to kill you all? Yi Dong-yun looked down at the burnt General Ming Shen on the ground and said indifferently, "It's about time to send him on his way." How dare you? Ji Yang shouted and wanted to rush over to help General Ming Shen. However, everything was too slow. Yi Tianyun grabbed the divine spear and swung it to the side, cutting Great General Ming Shen in half. Great General Ming Shen was dead. Ding. Successfully killed General Ming Shen. Reward, 20 billion EXP, 150,000 crazy points, 20,000 SPs. Reward, Heavenly Grand Array, Heavenly Divine Secret Art. Reward, Heavenly Fire, Mid-Grade Earth Level, Evil Spirit Bloodline, Rare, Evil Spirit Soul, Rare. Ding. Reward, 500 million EXP, 100,000 crazy points, 10,000 SPs, 1 Super Enhanced Lottery Roulette Ticket. Ding. Congratulations to player Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 7th layer Spirit King stage. Ding. Congratulations to player Tianyun for successfully breaking through to 8th layer Spirit King stage. Killing General Ming Shen gave him 20 billion EXP, which made Yi Tianyun's heart tremble. This was simply too frightening. It was simply an explosive value, an unimaginable value. Yi Tianyun couldn't even imagine it before, but now it appeared in front of him. General Ming Shen's basic EXP was almost 100 million, and with more than 200 times of Express, it reached a shocking number. Although it was difficult to level up, but with such a crazy amount of EXP, it was like nothing. This is crazy. Yi Tianyun never felt that he leveled up so fast, and his strength increased by leaps and bounds. At this rate, if he killed Ji Yang, he would reach peak Spirit King stage. Ji Yang's cultivation was higher than General Ming Shen, so his EXP was even more amazing. After killing General Ming Shen, he would get another 20 billion EXP. At this time, Ji Yang was already charging towards Yi Tianyun, releasing his strongest power. His body began to change, and his face became distorted. The next moment, his whole body turned black, and tentacles grew out of his body as if he had countless hands. However, these tentacles quickly fused and turned into 2 hands, turning into a 4-armed powerhouse. Whether it was his size or strength, he had a great breakthrough, as if he had transformed into a demon god, holding 4 divine tools in his hands. His strength was unparalleled. This is the power of the evil spirit race. Divine messenger, be careful. Elder Luo shouted in the distance. Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes, and detailed data immediately appeared in front of him. Ji Yang, transformed into the evil spirit race, the strongest ability is to evolve 8 arms, and each additional arm can greatly increase his strength. His defense and strength have been greatly increased, at least 3 times, and his overall combat power is 1 billion. Due to the imperfect bloodline, after using this ability, his cultivation will drop. Terrifying. When he transformed into the evil spirit race, his combat power soared to 1 billion, which was shocking. Sure enough, the power of the bloodline was the most terrifying existence. It could instantly increase a person's strength by a lot. No wonder the human race's bloodline looked down on them. Their own strength was already terrifying, and when they used it, it would reach a heaven-defying level. It's just that the power was not pure enough, and the side effect of using it is indeed strong. No wonder Ji Yang refused to use it in the beginning. Now that General Mingshen was killed, he was completely enraged, and he must use his strongest power to crush Yi Tianyun. I want you to die. Ji Yang roared, and just the sound wave alone lifted a large piece of the ground in front of him, and the shock wave spread in all directions. No one could stop it. Chapter 645. Ji Yang didn't look handsome at all now. He had completely transformed into a god of slaughter, a demon, brandishing the divine weapons in his 4 arms as he charged over. His speed soared in a straight line, far exceeding his previous strength. Who would have thought that Ji Yang still had such strong strength? Even if the old ancestor is here, he wouldn't be able to stop Ji Yang, right? Elder Luo and the others were stunned. They had never seen the evil spirit race's eruption before. Now that they saw it, their hearts trembled. Even if their old ancestor erupted, it might not be as amazing as Ji Yang's eruption. However, the side effects of the phoenix race's eruption were very small, but the side effects of the evil spirit race's eruption were too great. Not only did it last for a long time, but the side effects were also immediate. They didn't know about this. They only knew that Ji Yang was very powerful, and his violent strength was far from what they could compare with. Now, it was not the phoenix race's old ancestor who wanted to deal with him, but Yi Tianyun. However, Yi Tianyun also looked extremely domineering. He had transformed into an evil spirit, looking tall and mighty, handsome and evil, especially with 2 horns on his head and a pair of black wings condensed from black flames on his back. His aura was obviously stronger than Ji Yang's. Daddy, be careful. Luo Yen shouted loudly, feeling extremely worried. Don't worry, your daddy isn't that bad. Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently, looking at Ji Yang who was rushing over, and said indifferently, if my cultivation hadn't broken through, it would have been really difficult to deal with. Can my eruption increase so much? Compared to the original state, my strength has increased by more than 4 times, almost 5 times, right? At first, Ji Yang's combat power was less than 2 billion, but now it was 1 billion. This kind of improvement was already at a heaven-defying level. Roar! The first thing to arrive was the terrifying sound wave, which instantly enveloped Yi Tianyun, but it only brushed past his body, not causing him any harm. On the contrary, the ground around his feet seemed to have been plowed, rolling up and down. In an instant, Ji Yang appeared in front of Yi Tianyun and smashed the 4 divine tools in his hand towards Yi Tianyun's body. The 4 divine tools emitted a bright light. Yi Tianyun was using 4 divine tools at the same time, which was more than enough to crush most experts. Every divine artifact had a different effect. The first divine fan was like a dagger, and it was aimed at his chest. Another divine sword was aimed at his head. The ice-cold heavenly Yin fire was surrounding the sword, and it vaguely transformed into a ghost that was trying to bite him. Next was a giant axe, and it was aimed at his waist. The sharp edge of the axe was enough to cut through the void. The last one was a long spear. It was the weapon with the longest attack range. It was aimed at his head, and it wanted to pierce through his head in one fell swoop. The 4 divine artifacts were stacked on top of each other, and their power was stacked up crazily. That was why they had such terrifying combat power. Myriad slaughters. Ji Yang's eyes were bloodshot as he slashed down. 4 resplendent rays of light locked down every direction of escape. It could be said that there was nowhere to run, unless they drilled into the ground. But even if they drilled into the ground, they would still be dug out by the 4 weapons. After displaying this amazing technique, countless skeletons swarmed out of the weapons and bit down on Yi Tianyun. If he was bitten, he would definitely lose a large piece of flesh. Power doesn't come from just roaring, and it doesn't come from so many weapons. It comes from real power. Yi Tianyun had already condensed a terrifying black flame in his hand. It condensed in his fist, and in the next moment, he aimed at Ji Yang and heavily hooked his fist. The black flame behind him condensed the power of the black wings. In an instant, it merged into his entire arm. Dense divine runes appeared on his arm. Evil spirits, descend. His eyes flickered with black light. Then he hooked his fist, and a thick black light shrouded down from the sky. In fact, it pierced through his fist and pierced through the sky. Both he and Ji Yang were enveloped in it. At this moment, the power of the 2 collided, causing a violent explosion. Boom! The deafening sound spread throughout the entire phoenix nest. The power that came from it was several times stronger than the power that came from the phoenix cave. Even though everyone was standing far away, the aftermath of this power caused them to continuously retreat, and they almost fell to the ground. What a terrifying power! Apart from these words, there was nothing else that could be said. It was really too shocking. The Imperial Tutor will definitely win, definitely. The people of Nether Heaven Divine Nation's hearts sank. They couldn't help but shout. They didn't want their Imperial Tutor to lose. If he lost, they would really be finished. The Divine Envoy will definitely win. The Phoenix Nest believed that Yi Tianyun would win. At present, Yi Tianyun was their hope. If Yi Tianyun died, then they would also be finished. Just thinking about it made them feel a bit sad. They were a dignified Phoenix clan, but they were protected by a human. But thinking about the fact that he was a divine envoy, they didn't think much of it. They had long regarded Yi Tianyun as one of their own. Under the prayers of everyone, the black light that received the arrival of the evil spirits quickly spread in all directions. Wherever it went, the ground was annihilated inch by inch. Until the black light covered a radius of 1 kilometer, it finally stopped. As the black light gradually dissipated, what appeared in front of everyone's eyes was still Yi Tianyun's stalwart body. He was just standing there motionlessly, not even moving half a step. As for Ji Yang, they couldn't see any trace of him. All they could see was a pile of ashes. Not far away, for divine tools had fallen to the ground, all of them were scorched. Imperial Tutor. Everyone was horrified. They didn't see the Imperial Tutor, but when they saw the 4 divine tools fall to the ground, they knew that their Imperial Tutor had died and turned into a pile of ashes. He was burned to ashes. A Saint King stage powerhouse was burned to ashes just like that. Everyone took a deep breath. Even if this flame was immortal fire, it wouldn't be able to do it so easily, right? In fact, this was the inextinguishable flame, but it was the inextinguishable flame that had been strengthened several times. With the power of the Imperial Phoenix bloodline, the power of immortal fire is incomparable to heavenly Yin fire. It can burn all evil things, including Ji Yang. Yi Tianyun didn't use the power of the Imperial Phoenix bloodline before, but when facing Ji Yang, he used it. If he didn't use it, he would be able to suppress the Imperial Tutor. Because he didn't have much time left. The 200 times EXP card only had a little time left. If he didn't kill Ji Yang now, it would be a waste. Ding! Successfully killed Ji Yang. Reward, 22. 4 billion EXP, 180. 000 crazy point, 400. 000 SBS. Reward, Heavenly Yin Divine Secret Art, Netherworld Divine Palm, Netherworld Divine Secret Art, Heavenly Yin Grand Array, Evil Spirit Divine Secret Art. Items obtained, Evil Spirit Divine Sword, Inferior Grade Divine Artifact. Evil Spirit Divine Armor, Inferior Grade Divine Artifact. Evil Spirit Boots, Inferior Grade Divine Artifact. Evil Spirit Bloodline, Grade 2. Evil Spirit Soul, Rare. Evil Spirit Bone, Rare. Evil Spirit Secretary, Rare. Ding! Reward, 500 million EXP, 100. 000 Crazy Point, 5. 000 SBS, 1 extra lottery ticket. Chapter 646. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyan for successfully breaking through to 9th layer Spirit King stage. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyan for successfully breaking through to the peak of Spirit King stage. After ascending 2 levels in a row, Tianyun was stuck at the peak of Spirit King stage. He had thought that he would be able to break through to the Saint King stage, but now it seems that he had thought too much. Advancing from the peak Spirit King stage to the Saint King stage required 15 billion EXP. One should know that advancing from the first layer to the second layer of the Spirit King stage required 3 billion EXP. At the later stages, it would require 8 to 9 billion, or even 10 billion EXP. As such, the seemingly ridiculous amount of EXP was only enough to level up 1 or 2 levels. But this was already shocking enough. From the 4th layer of Spirit King stage to the peak Spirit King stage, he spent almost 9 million crazy points to buy EXP cards. This kind of consumption was too shocking. The experience card was too expensive. Fortunately, he had a 50% discount coupon, so he only used it now. Everything was half price, but even so, it still made his heart ache. 80 times EXP card cost 2 million crazy point. After half price card, it only cost 1 million crazy point, but it was still expensive. As for those that are 50 times, they also need more than 1 million crazy points. Even those that are 20 or 30 times, the price is as high as 1 million crazy points. If he didn't use the half-price card, he would need at least 10 to 20 million crazy points. Now that the half-price card cost 8 or 9 million yuan, it was also very painful. However, facing so many experts, how could he not use it? Foundation is always the most important, and he has so many crazy points, he can just earn it back. Ding! 80 times experience card time up. Ding! 50 times experience card time is up. Ding! 1 hour was really too short. It would be great if it could be longer. However, most of the cultivators had been eliminated, and the 2 Saint Kings had been killed. What else could they ask for? The most valuable ones were these 2 Saint Kings. The rest were just average. Of course, if they could last a little longer, he would not mind. It was a pity that he could only last until he killed the heavenly netherworld Holy King. If he could kill all 3 of them, the experience points would be exploding. However, he could only think about it for now. It would still take some effort to deal with them, especially since it would also take up a lot of time outside. After killing the rest of the Spirit King stage experts, Tianyun returned to his original state. Since he didn't enter the combat state for the time being, he didn't need to maintain this state, it would consume a lot of crazy point. It's over for now. Tianyun swept his gaze across the crowd. The eyes of the Phoenix clan members were filled with shock. It took a long time for them to recover from their shock. 2 great Saint Kings had been easily killed, so how could they not be shocked? If he hadn't arrived in time, he wouldn't have known what had happened. Most of them had probably been captured, and there were even quite a few casualties. If they resisted too much, they would definitely kill them. They wouldn't insist on capturing them. Hurry up and find a place to hide. We are safe for now. I have killed all the cultivators from Heavenly Netherworld Divine Kingdom outside. However, I am not sure if there will be any reinforcements, said Tianyun as he walked over. Everyone nodded and immediately ran to hide with the injured. They were frozen by the heavenly fire before. If they want to recover now, they must find a place to slowly recover. Otherwise, they won't be able to fight anymore. Daddy, Luo Yen whispered, but it was not as smooth as before. She didn't directly throw herself into Tianyun's arms, which meant that she knew that Tianyun was not her father. Do you remember anything? Lee Tianyun reached out and rubbed Luo Yan's little head. It's good that you remember. Just call me Big Brother E, it's weird to call me Daddy. After all, I am not Elder Luo's son-in-law, I am just a friend who helped you come back. No, I can call you Godfather. Luo Yan's beautiful eyes flashed, and suddenly she grabbed Lee Tianyun's arm and said in surprise, Godfather, you are amazing. That was a Saint King stage expert. What did you look like when you transformed? We have never seen it before. Godfather? Lee Tianyun touched his nose, feeling a little embarrassed, but calling him Godfather is better than calling him father. Divine Envoy, it's really thanks to you that we are fine. If you didn't come back in time, Elder Luo clutched his chest, his face was pale, and his injuries were obviously not light. Hurry up and hide, there is still the biggest one that hasn't been eradicated. I will go and take a look first. Lee Tianyun signaled them to hide quickly. Luo Yan and the others nodded and immediately evacuated with their people. The phoenix nest has a very safe place, so they quickly evacuated and quickly went to the safe house. Lee Tianyun didn't stop and quickly went to the phoenix cave. He didn't even get close to the phoenix cave, but he immediately felt the energy fluctuations coming from inside. The fluctuations were getting stronger and stronger, which was obviously the result of crazy attacks. It seems that the war is not over, it should be said that it has just begun. Lee Tianyun immediately ran down, and the closer he got, the more he could feel the terrifying power coming from inside. When he went down, he saw 3 Holy King ancestors frantically attacking the heavenly netherworld Holy King in the distance. The heavenly netherworld Holy King blocked their joint attack with one hand, and at the same time, he constantly absorbed the souls that came out of the seal. Although it was very slow, as he absorbed more and more souls, the heavenly netherworld Holy King's cultivation had reached the peak of the Saint King stage. In the face of the crazy attacks of the 3 Holy Kings, he could easily resist them with a divine artifact. It must be known that the 3 Holy King ancestors used all their skills, and their cooperation was very tacit. They were simply the best partners. The superimposed power was not as simple as 1 + 1, but several times the power. This could be seen from the explosive combat power of the heavenly netherworld Holy King, which was more than 14 billion combat power. If the 3 of them joined forces to deal with Ji Yang, they would definitely be able to suppress him easily. How could the 3 old ancestors be simple characters? Their overbearing power, close cooperation, and even continued to be superimposed. They were terrifying enough, but the heavenly netherworld Holy King was even more terrifying. After absorbing the souls, the effect of the medium-grade divine artifact on his chest was maximized. It was indestructible, and could resist a combat power of 16 billion. Chapter 647. Heavenly Netherworld Holy King, peak of the Saint King stage, infinitely close to the Divine King stage. Wearing a low-grade divine armor and a middle-grade divine artifact on his chest. Possessing the purest bloodline of the evil spirit race. The side effects of eruption are close to 0. He belongs to the relatively complete form of the evil spirit race. Martial arts, heavenly in divine art, heavenly in divine fire, etc. Its weakness was the extreme yang fire. Preliminary judgment. His current comprehensive battle power is 14 billion battle power, and the details will continue to increase. With the appraisal eye, the detailed situation appeared in front of him. His battle power is as high as 14 billion, which is more than a level higher than Ji Yang. The key is that he has not erupted with his true body. Once he erupts with his true body, it is estimated that his battle power will be more than this. This is just like Ji Yang, when he truly erupts with power, it will greatly increase. Especially this old ancestor of the evil spirit race, it represents that the eruption is undoubtedly more amazing and more overbearing. He is already strong enough now. Using the power of the divine artifact, he can easily suppress the power of the 3 old ancestors. It has to be said that the higher the level, the more heaven-defying the increase in battle power is. Later on, it is completely enhanced by leaps and bounds. When he breaks through to the next level, he will probably break through to a few 100 million battle power, even 5 or 600 million, 7 or 800 million. This is really a higher level of cultivation can suppress a large number of cultivators, unless he relies on divine artifacts to make up for it. Now that the heavenly netherworld Holy King has so many divine artifacts, even if the 3 old ancestors all have divine artifacts, there is still a big gap in comparison. I didn't expect the heavenly netherworld Holy King to have the same body as this evil spirit race. The evil spirit race's attainments in the soul are really amazing. Lee Tianyun felt that he had entered a whole new world. It is too difficult for them to leave their body. As for separating a part of their soul and then possessing others, or transforming into another life, this was basically impossible, but to the evil spirit race, they were able to do this. It means that they have an extra life. Even if the other clone is killed, at least they will still be alive. How could it be like they were dead? They were really dead. Of course, after their avatars were killed, their souls would be injured, but at least they were still alive. They just had to slowly recover. It was better than dying. This kind of ability does not need to be envious, because after he killed Ji Yang and the others, he will have to go back and study it. With the ability to create more doppelgangers, it would definitely be best. This way, he would be able to do more things. If he could kill this evil spirit race being in front of him, he would definitely obtain a much purer reward. However, it did not seem that easy to deal with the heavenly netherworld Holy King. 100 Clan Leader. Lee Tianyun looked at the heavenly netherworld Holy King and then looked at Bai Shuihuang. Bai Shuihuang also saw Ji Yang coming down, so she wanted to see what was going on. If Ji Yang and the others were to come down, Bai Shuihuang wouldn't believe them. They had to fight with their lives on the line. Otherwise, if the 3 ancestors were disturbed, they wouldn't be able to break through Holy King Tianming's defense. Divine Messenger, why did you come back? It's so dangerous outside. Bai Shuihuang was shocked when she saw that Lee Tianyun was able to come back, especially when she saw that he was able to come in. Could it be that the flame cage outside has been destroyed? The flame cage outside has indeed been destroyed, but don't worry. Only Holy King Tianming is left from the divine nation. I've taken care of the rest, Lee Tianyun said calmly. What? It wasn't just Bai Shuihuang, even the 3 old ancestors were shocked. The heavenly netherworld divine nation had 2 holy kings, and they were defeated just like that? No one would believe that they were defeated by this young man in front of them? Bai Shuihuang knew that Lee Tianyun's strength was not bad, but she didn't know that Lee Tianyun's strength was so strong. Big words. I don't know how you sneaked in, but do you think the Imperial teacher and the others are that easy to deal with? If you want to distract me, you should at least come up with a better lie. This lie is far too hilarious. Holy King Heavenly Netherworld chuckled coldly in disdain, thinking that this was a joke. Not to mention him, even Bai Shuihuang and the others thought that Lee Tianyun was lying to distract the Heavenly Netherworld Holy King. But isn't this lie a bit too fake? If even they don't believe it, how can they deceive the Heavenly Netherworld Holy King? The 3 old ancestors shook their heads. They had all heard of a human divine messenger, but now it seems that it was a bit unreliable. They knew what Lee Tianyun's intention was, but it was a bit too fake. He should have said that other god kingdoms had come to help. That would have been more believable. But now, this lie was too unreliable. Whether it's a lie or not, you can go out and see for yourself. I don't need to lie to you. Lee Tianyun stepped towards the side of the 3 old ancestors. Don't go over there. Bai Shuihuang wanted to stall Lee Tianyun, but she was still a step too late. Lee Tianyun had already stepped into their attack range. The 3 old ancestors continued to release their strongest attacks. The energy released was enough to send a Spirit King stage expert flying, but it was nothing to Lee Tianyun. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Even if they were standing on the side, they would be sent flying immediately. On the contrary, Lee Tianyun stood there unscathed. He didn't feel anything at all. The energy released was like a gust of wind blowing on his body. At most, it would bring him a cool feeling, but it wouldn't blow him away. It seems that if I let you continue, you will have a great chance to break through to the God King realm. If I had come a little later, I'm afraid you would have succeeded, but unfortunately I'm here. Yi Tianyun felt that this heavenly netherworld holy king might really break through to the God King realm after absorbing all the souls. Even if he didn't break through to the God King realm, he was infinitely close to the God King realm. Not bad, even the 3 old guys can't deal with me but you. Before he could finish his words, Yi Tianyun's eyes turned dark, and his body began to grow bigger and bigger. He immediately turned into a huge evil spirit. Terrible black flames surrounded his body, and huge black flame wings spread out from his back. If he didn't control the black flames, he would have burned everything around him. The terrifying power appeared again, and even the 3 old ancestors could feel the pressure coming from Yi Tianyun. How did the divine messenger become so powerful? Bai Shui Huang and the others were shocked. They tried to dissuade Yi Tianyun from going to the heavenly netherworld holy king realm, but now it seems that they thought too much. At this time, they thought back to what Yi Tianyun said before. Is it true? Did he really kill all the people from the heavenly netherworld divine nation? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.